trying to get animals to talk.
Isn't that cool?
Everything was kind of set up in perfection, like in our bodies, like the fact that we exist, the fact that the eye is put together and operates the way that it does, the fact that they have like moles and parrots and everything, the fact that it all happens.
All right then, let's hear it. What did you see?
So stoked on this.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome to As the Wheel Turns. This is the 250th America Birthday Bash. We kind of had a walkout there from Grok on the performance of some America First haikus. America First. They aren't really America First. Watch, it's going to work perfectly now that I don't need it to work.
One.
There it is.
Brave hearts beat as one. Mountains tall and oceans grand. Freedom ever shines. 31415.
Anyway, we're here together. It is the 250th anniversary of America. We're having a fireworks and fun celebration here. And I'm Reverend Paul. This is my wife, Lakshmi Ananda. This is our good friend, Miles. And everybody in the universe is welcome to join us. The link is in the description. If you come in, you just have to make sure your Chrome is fired up and working great to be able to talk to us on this particular platform. And hello, world. We are here to celebrate the awesomeness of America today. So one of the things that, because it's our birthday, it's the 250th birthday of everybody, I sometimes have trouble celebrating my own birthday, but I have no trouble celebrating everybody's birthday, everybody I know's birthday. So this is a great and groovy day. We've got some fireworks, we've got some patriotic speeches. We tried to select everything for being kind of non-political, but patriotic in the sense. I've got some historical stuff. I've got some modern stuff here. We've got all kinds of cool stuff we can watch and we can react to. But to get us started, guys, there is a we were asking ourselves to come up with at least one thing that we'd like to share with the world about what we liked about America. What'd you guys think about that? Or did you have something you'd like to share in that regard?
Sure, happy to go. We were
Go,
talking
Miles,
about
go.
this a little before, but there is this lovely group of people in Big Bear Lake, which is maybe a couple hours north of LA. A couple of friends to follow the lives of these bald eagles. So Jackie and Shadow are their names, and my wife is particularly invested in it. And they're a couple of cameras. One is up close in the nest, and then another is from afar. So we were actually able to trace their births and see a couple of new little creatures fledging. So they flew off, and I guess some developers are trying to maybe remove some of the trees there. So there's an active movement. So just the activism in the U.S. as well, like the care for animals, the activism. These are a couple of things that I think are quite American in nature. Not that they're not in other places, but that's our bird, right? So it could have been a turkey, but it was a bald eagle.
We have 8 turkeys. Yeah, go ahead.
Nice. We've got some turkeys that come by, which are excellent. The turkeys were part of a farm across I-70. We live in Evergreen. And on the other side of I-70, there was some small religious community that had turkeys, and they got tired of over the years, and they just let them wander away. So now we've got a roving band of turkeys in Evergreen, Colorado,
Wow.
and they're miraculous. How when we've got a little extra bird seed out, we call them turkey scoops. If we put them in this one part of our yard, then the turkeys will come and they show up. They are big birds, turkeys.
They're
But
big.
an eagle.
And are they wild?
Yeah, wild turkeys.
Yeah,
These are
yeah.
half wild. Yeah.
I mean, because they're like samurais. You know when they like flare their tails out, like the men especially, and they strut and they come at you, and you're like, whoa, I better get out of here.
These are all females, so they're pretty
Okay.
mild and grateful for birdseed. So yeah,
Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
They're very tuned in.
Yeah.
But you're nailing it, Miles, with Americans' love of animals. We are just the strangest country in the world for how much we love and invest in our pets. I forget what the GDP percentage is, but it's on the pie chart for animals.
It sure is. I mean, when I go travel, me and my wife, we there's a cat place. It's called Chateau Marmont, named after the
Nice.
famous Chateau Marmont, right? So, and I mean, it's a cat hotel. Like
I love
you know,
that.
they each have like celebrities are in the room. So there's like a Marilyn Monroe room, and Audrey Hepburn and this and that. Very cute. And
That's
then
fun.
there's like a main room, right? But yeah, like specifically for cats, which is it's hard to find versus dogs.
no, I love that. Do you guys have cats?
Yeah, we do. We have 2 cats. Yeah.
We have
a boy and a
4.
girl, and
We
they
have
couldn't
4.
be more different. Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you?
We have 4 ragdoll
4.
cats.
4.
Yeah, so we're
Wow.
like close to being the cat lady. Yeah.
Oh my God. Right. Like, she wants more, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I can only spread so much love.
With the space being at a premium in Japan, I was watching a YouTube kind of really great video, really well made, of this cat cafe that you can go to. So you go and you get your tea or whatever, and they have like 42 cats or something that live there, and you can buy cat lollipops out of like a machine, and the cats will come up and like eat the lollipops and cat treats. But when they feed them, it's so Japanese. They feed them all at once. All the cats come and they all have their own bowl and they all eat at one time. It's the most organized thing I've ever seen with a cat's
That's
involved.
amazing. You know, we went last year, and I'm a huge owl fan. That's actually my favorite animal. So
Nice.
there's an owl cafe in Akihabara, and they're allowed to have domestic owls, which I'm like, how does this work? So
Wow.
legally speaking, right? So if they've been injured or there's sort of qualifications to it, and you get your owl and they sit perched on your shoulder.
Whoa. I want to go.
It's nuts.
That is
It's
wild.
super cool, and they were very nice. It felt good. Versus some of them, I feel like they're probably not doing the right thing.
Like
the
exploiting.
pigs and this and that. Yeah, like exotic animals, but it felt good. I don't know. I hope that's
Yeah. Wow. How cool.
Yeah.
I bumped into this detail about Americans and their dogs, especially. I was watching this YouTube video of a couple who had a animal hospital, and it was like in Eastern Europe, so it was like Lithuania or something like that, right? And when they had sort of downtime as a service, they would find dogs that were like rogue, wild dogs that were like just mangy. They look like, they were just mange 100% around their body. They would take them, they'd clean them off, they'd shave them down, and the gratitude that these dogs would show towards them was like 1,000 out of, it was just 1,000% love of just like, oh my God, thank you so very much and stuff like that. Then at the end of the process, they would clean them up and feed them and everything like that. They'd put them back in their car and they'd take the camera and they'd go and they'd let the dogs go. And dude, the comments from the Americans like, why would you ever put a dog out on the street? It's like, yo. They had to make follow-up videos for the Americans that were like, these things live on the streets, and us bringing it in for a little bit was actually the weird part. These animals don't live inside.
Right. Wow. I know.
So our concept of like living.
There are a lot of. Oh no.
No. I was gonna say, our concept of like living close with dogs and cats, and the way we treat our pets, and just the amount we invest in them. It's really kind of unique. We got a chance to travel in Europe to Switzerland last summer, and there were some families that in this hotel we were staying at that would travel with their pets. That's the first time I'd seen like serious
Wow.
pet as member of family travel, and they had this.
Sure. I mean, some spots, right? Like it's crazy. Like Greece has tons of cats and stuff like that. But,
Yeah.
But you can't do that everywhere.
No. There's just places where the resources are so stressed that humans aren't really making the cut, and so you can't, in those kinds of societies. There's no way you can ethically give an animal some food or something when the humans don't really have enough for them in general.
I know, right? And then there's the allergy thing, right? And I think that's why we struggle a bit. And I'm sure you've experienced this too, where like you can take dogs to certain like Airbnbs and hotels, but cats, it's so rare that you can bring them along, and they just don't love being displaced from home anyway.
They don't.
So.
No, they don't. Home is their turf.
They know themselves through that. Absolutely.
It's definitely not mine.
That's hilarious. Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Animals in America. That is an absolutely American phenomenon. Well identified, sir.
It is.
Squeets.
Yeah, thank you.
What Squeets?
Whoa.
All right, LA traffic.
Yeah, like don't run.
Sending good vibes to Miles
well,
here.
someone just tried to run through a red. So.
Oh dear.
Cute. Very cute.
Very cute.
But that would have been exciting for this.
No, we would have.
Oh my god.
I wonder if I could call 911 on my phone here. Look at dude, Miles is in LA traffic, so God bless on the LA traffic there, sir. Lakshmi, what was your thought about America, or what you want to share about America?
My thought was really odd because it actually occurred in Ireland. I lived in Ireland from 86 to 89 in my late 20s, and I lived in a tiny village of 1,800 people called Portarlington, and it was 90% Catholic. So I was invited to come and speak at the Protestant school, which was very tiny. It was a one-room schoolhouse with 25 kids in one room from first grade to seventh grade, and they wanted me to come and talk on America. And I thought, sure, I can talk on America. And I get there, and I'm doing okay until the questions they're asking me have everything to do with 80s American television, like Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff and Dallas and Dynasty and MacGyver with and Highway to Heaven. And they asked, do you know David Hasselhoff? Have you met him? Are you good friends? And are the roads really more than just dual carriageways, where you actually have 2 or 3 rows of traffic going the same way? And I realized with kind of horror, what did I volunteer for? Because what do I really know about the big topic of America? It was like, man. Certainly.
Funny.
Yeah. So
it's funny when you become the representative of something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like so nationalistically or religiously, if you're in a minority in that place, and then you're like, oh God, am I the right person for this role here?
And I thought, what do I share? And I mean, I tried to be a good ambassador, but I realized, truthfully, because I'd never really traveled up to that point, because I was, still in my 20s, all I really knew about were my own experiences. So that was humbling and memorable for me.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
I think that is the case, though. A lot of times it's like folks might look. Sorry, I'm looking for parking, but they might look monolithically at an American, right? But everyone is only coming for their own perspective. So. There was this book I read some years ago, Sand Talk by Tyson Yunkaporta, and he is an Aboriginal man from Australia. And that's what he's in the book. It's like, I have limited knowledge. I'm from this, I think they call it clan, and this is only my perspective, and that's all we can do, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But your point there is really well taken, Love. The whole world knows America through a bunch of things, but it knows it through Hollywood more than anything. So Knight Rider and all of the American television and everything. There are people all over the world who feel like they're not American, but they're like American adjacent. Like they've given a certain amount of their heart to American media and the American mindset, and so they're kind of running the American OS in their brain a little bit.
The funny thing was, I did actually later meet David Hasselhoff at a convention. My uncle was a TV producer in High Point, North Carolina, and because I lived in L.A. Laguna at the time, he said, "Do you want to come?" I said, "Of course." And so he was, I think, advertising Baywatch or Baywatch, whatever that ridiculous show was, and I, shook his hand and said, "You were famous in Ireland," and I told him, and he laughed. So it's kind of fun to be able to tell him he was a big deal in our tiny village of Portarlington, Ireland.
I heard he was super famous in like Germany and Europe and stuff. And I was in a bar. Where was it? Like many years ago in Austria. I was sitting next to this guy who was wasted, and he kept the entire time talking about David Hasselhoff and how great his music was, and Stephen Ambrose, who I don't know who that is, or no, Wolfgang Ambrose. I don't know who that is, but he might have been someone who's like German or Austrian. But it was nuts. The bartender had to tell him to stop talking because it was hours of the same topic, and we're like, no. Oh man,
that's funny. That is so funny. I'm realizing I've very nice. I'm realizing I've got a bunch of media inside of here, and this media I can play back here.
Is that an eagle?
Yeah, that is an eagle. This has been taking the internet by storm here. There is an eagle and a fox, and this is up in Alaska, and this was recorded this week, and this has been making the rounds on the internet.
Oh my goodness.
I know. It's like these guys are freaking out in their car. I'm not going to play their sound, but they're freaking out in the car, and they're like, dude, we've got this crazy eagle and this fox talking to each other, and they're just sitting there like taking it easy.
Look how big the eagle is compared to the fox. That's crazy.
Eagle's enormous. That is an enormous animal.
I love it.
That's America.
That's America right
there.
That is a big thing, though. Foxes are gigantic. That thing looks bigger than a small dog. I mean, that's like a medium-sized dog, that eagle.
Wow.
That is a big bird.
That is a big bird. We've this whole concept you're talking about of putting cameras in nests. We are branching out at Casa Benedict, and we've discovered these things called squirrel boxes. And squirrel boxes are they're made by this guy, and they have this like little entryway security. Dude, we're mounting Google Nest cameras inside of there so that we can see the squirrel activities in these 4 new squirrel boxes we've got that we're mounting on the back of our house. And it is like, I mean, we're going to get to watch these squirrels and come up with names for them and all this. We've been coming up with names for the squirrel facility.
Nut Haven, isn't that one of them?
Yes, I think it was the Nut House was one of them. That was one we were.
Of course, I was going to say that. You have to. Well, and if you did it with a Nest as well, I mean, what a perfect partnership you could have with Google Nest.
Oh my God. Oh, right.
I mean, this is endorsement city right here.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, you make a ton of sense, right? Get a little corporate cash
together,
right?
Yeah.
Put it into some extra peanuts for these little friends. Exactly.
It's like the squirrels are like, do I need all this corporate advertisement on my house?
Corporate advertisement. We've got sponsors. We're sponsored by Chivo's Peanuts.
I just want to be able to pet a squirrel. Like, I don't know if that's ever going to work.
Like McGee's peanut butter.
Dude, here's the names. We've got some space left for some more naming rights here. The Nut Hut is the first one. The Eggcorn Embassy is number 2. The last one's the Peanut Gallery. And then we had a bunch of other words that we wanted to work in, like the Department of something, the Ministry. The word dictorate and commissar are trying to find a way into these names of these.
Do you have any ideas, Miles? Anything that
Offhand, I have to
That's
sit
not
on that.
fair to ask.
Of course,
No, this is too much.
yeah. No, I mean, it's funny, and it's something I do too. But like, yeah, riffing. I mean, definitely like fluff, like something in there, like thinking about the tales. I mean, that could be fun.
Yep. Yep.
Nuts definitely come to mind, of course.
We were thinking like the
The
Ministry
nuttery.
of
Nuttery,
Quizzical
that's fun.
Glances.
The Nut House.
Nuttery. Nuttery is good.
Get thee to a nuttery.
Get thee to a nuttery. Exactly. Hey, look, it's a nuttery. Is where they're keeping the nuts. Yeah, totally. The when I was thinking about America, I had two of them that caught me. But last summer when we were in Switzerland, boy, was it a beautiful place. Like just physically impeccable.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
But the integration of the people and the environment was at a really high level that I haven't seen except at a handful of times in my life. Like when the environment itself is like alive, it seems like, and the people are alive feeding into that and like that kind of cycle of the thing. The the particular town we were staying at when we were there is in this what was it's called the Apfenzella, and it is the oldest place in the world. There hasn't been any war there for more than 650 years. It's like the place on the earth that has the greatest track record of peace. This one area, and
no, we shouldn't have mentioned it.
We do. Right. America's birthday. Like bring in the nukes. No, they're
God.
they are so committed to peace that by decree, every single building that's a public building has to have a nuclear fallout shelter in the basement. So they don't build buildings without this in it. Also, it's really odd, the building codes there too, because like windows there, every single window is like a $4,000 window. It like has like a crazy crank, and it has like a mode that you can press some two buttons and it'll open up and you can escape in a fire. It's like super energy efficient. It's just a really well run, like super smooth and amazing society. Like if you ever get a chance to visit, it is definitely worth it.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, please do send me the name, because the thing is too, I'm working on some stuff like that. Like I was working with some peace builders this year, so I'd love to see a model of a place that does something like that. So I'm walking to my spot here.
Nice, man. Nice. When we were there though, with all of this awesomeness and all of this aliveness and all this health, what I was realizing is that you can't talk about anything religious almost anywhere. They have had so many problems with invasions and pogroms and just every other damn thing under the sun connected to religion that they are not into anybody talking about God at all or Jesus or anything. So in the sense we were talking about India before this started, where in India every child knows that God is real. It's kind of the opposite of America, where we like have this. It's turning the corner, and it's not so much as strong. But when I was growing up, there's a very just pervasive kind of atheism, where it was just like the default setting was there is no divine power or whatever. In India, it's the opposite, and so everybody's talking about God like everywhere, and that's what struck me as odd in Switzerland. Like there's so many things I would love about being in Switzerland, but the fact that when you start bringing up religion, you can go to jail like that in a regular casual conversation.
Wow, so it's seriously prohibited.
Well, I'm sure there's a little grace involved, based on context or whatever. But yeah, if you were like just Hare Krishning it on the corner or whatever, that's like some jail time, dude.
Wow. Oh, man. Don't give me a book. You were going to jail.
Right. No pamphleting. No
pamphlets.
Just, yeah. And so I just love it. I just love it in America. I love it in America how we've got this open approach to it, where we've got 230 cultures that are all blending and melting together here. It's kind of like a salad. It doesn't really melt. You've got lots of little individual hot spots of cherries and Kalamata olives and croutons. She's got all kinds of stuff going on in America. And but we're pretty much the global culture for tolerance, I would say. Like most places are trying to deal with maybe 2, maybe 3 cultures, and like the third one's kind of a trouble. Here we've got 230, which are essentially existing in peace together. which is
I just
huge.
I hope we can sort out some of that. So I mean I hear you because if you just look at news, like you don't get that same picture, and I think a lot of people are just seeing the awfulest awful of how that manifests. But yes, I mean you're right from the sense that like you go to New York and it's like every country is represented there. It's
Totally.
pretty nuts, and it's
Yeah.
fairly harmonious as far as it goes.
Fairly. That's the thing.
But yeah.
You can't expect perfection, but you can. It's like it's not perfection, but it's like in the upper 80s percentile.
Well, I mean, it's certainly not homogenous like some places are, right? Where
Right.
there's just going to be some side eyes if there's someone that just doesn't blend in.
Yeah, exactly. When I lived in Chicago, I lived just south of Little Italy. And there was a Target that I went. This is how I learned how this function of Chicago. I went to Target, and this should have been the clue. There was a full-size replica of the Leaning Tower of Pisa actually leaning in the parking lot next to the Target. And I'm like, it's like
Excellent.
1-to-1. Yeah. No, it's like crazy. So I go into the Target, and I'm walking around, and I'm hearing a lot of Italian. And I'm just like, it's starting to get my attention. And then I'm realizing, dude, they're only speaking Italian here. Like, I'm not hearing any English, even though all the signs are in English. So I go up to someone and I ask them in English, like, what's up with all the Italian? They don't speak English.
Wow,
I know.
fascinating.
And then that's when it really hit me. I was like, whoa, we've got some like serious neighborhoods here. This is like the Italian neighborhood. Then I started seeing it everywhere. So there were dozens of them in Chicago where there'd be their own cuisine. Some of them had their own street signs in additional languages.
Wow.
It just so I don't think Chicago gets credit for that. Everybody knows about Chicago because of its high murder rate and all the violence in the south side of Chicago and everything. But they are running an experiment in Chicago that I just don't think they're running in any other major American city. Like, and they're
I'm
winning,
so sorry.
as far as I can tell.
They're playing disco right over here. So you're gonna start to hear some Bee Gees. I'm just looking for where I am. I apologize. I was listening, but
awesome.
I couldn't help but laugh. We're about to go back to the 70s, and I kind of look like I belong there. So.
Dude, I'm so glad this was played disco in LA. That sounds magical.
Are you headed to someplace fun, Miles?
It's a coffee meetup. So, I'm going to meet with some creative people. So I've been doing that lately just to get my butt out of the house. And
nice.
yeah, unfortunately, that means I need to go fairly soon.
No problem. It was great talking to you, sir.
Yeah, you too. But
Totally. Yes,
I mean, it is amazing. Here we go. Right by disco.
Nice.
But yes, it is amazing that you can just, it's across the street. That you can have your little pockets of, you can bring your nation essentially into, there's spots here. Like there's like little Oaxaca and little, Japan and all sorts of stuff.
Exactly. And so, you in America, you don't have to really travel a federal border to get to a culture and to a language pocket that otherwise, I imagine it exists in other parts of the world, but we have such a big place here, and we've got so many people, and in general, we live together in a pretty good harmony. Which is like we should all pat ourselves on the back for that. Like growing up with the whatever OS we're running, it's not like we're not like savaging our neighbors in the streets.
Yeah, I mean, as they say, right, a more perfect union. So where we see these errors in judgment and things that are happening, I do feel like some of that is cyclical. And that it will return to some more compassion and stuff in our policies. But yes, I mean on the whole, you can have wildly different cultures living next to each other, and there's some more curiosity than just violence simply because.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well said.
Well, Miles, God bless. It was so nice to hang out with you, sir.
Thank
you have a
you.
wonderful
You
rest
too.
of your morning. Absolutely.
Yes. All right. Beautiful.
We're going to keep the torch lit. If you want to swing back by later, we're going to be watching some speeches and some other stuff. But take it easy for now.
Okay, that sounds fun. Someone's talking to me. Welcome to the city. What a
Really.
dick.
Back, sir.
Anyway.
Take it easy, man.
Like he couldn't have opened the window and said, "Hey, can you move?" instead of
No kidding.
right.
Spread,
So
dude. Keep
speaking
those
of
vibes
living
high.
in harmony.
Keep those vibes high. Keep those vibes high.
Right. It's the culture of car versus pedestrian that's more dangerous than the
No,
religion.
you're right. You're
And you're
right.
in the heart of that in LA for sure.
Oh my goodness, I'm right
Mhm.
in the middle of the city. So, yes, it was beautiful. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the time, and it's great to chat with both of you.
You
Thank
as
you,
well, sir.
Miles. Take
See you, man.
care.
I sure
Bye.
will.
Bye.
Bye.
That's all.
Bye.
See ya. Very, very cool. Miles is awesome. He's
What
uh,
fun. That was such a treat to get to have a chat with him. Yeah.
totally. Miles and I met on the Vision train. He's another engineer, and man, he makes all the conductors and the engineers on the Vision train. They all put on different kinds of rides with like different subjects and stuff.
Yeah.
Miles has some of the most creative ones. I mean, they're all creative, but like amongst a sea of creatives, he's like extra creative.
Do you remember some of the rides he's led?
Yeah, he had this ride where we were all supposed to have different kinds of experiences in at different times. And I am looking here. I used to have a bunch of images. You know what? I have an art section here. And in my art section, I have art chunks and art desktops. And in here somewhere, I've got some images that I took of some of his stuff when we were going through it. But basically, I'll have to recount it for you here just spontaneously. But he would essentially, in like a 2 hour experience, he would plan 6 little stops for our collective train, and at each of the stops, we would have to do something, kind of like uh, a scavenger hunt a little bit, but also
Fun.
like a creativity scavenger hunt, where like at
Fun.
this one you had to make something like this together, and then we were in little groups and we'd all make that thing together, and then at this one we had to make this other thing together, and then we'd all have to do that there, and yeah, just what he drew out of the group was like truly amazing. Anyway, just compliments from
I could
Miles.
I could imagine that. He seems like a wonderful guy.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot going on. I didn't realize he was in LA. That's an incredibly cool and creative part of the world.
Yeah.
Um, well, love, we've got some videos that we need to watch here. I'm
Yeah,
gonna try
you've
to.
planned the coolest experience for us. I
Dude.
can hardly wait.
Well, not only that, but we've got fireworks as well. There's a little preview for some fireworks we got going on. Woo! And so we've happy birthday, America! Happy birthday,
Happy
America!
birthday, America.
Absolutely.
250. That's
250
amazing.
years. What I did with all these videos we're going to watch is I found ones, almost everybody who has a speech as a public speaker about Independence Day, they talk about the founding, and they talk about different aspects of the founding that they appreciate, or that they think is cool. And so it's magical the way, I think what it is. America's a physical place, but it's also a place that like lives in the heart. And so much of that is about the story that we tell ourselves about our neighbors and about our history and how it all kind of fits together. In this age of storytelling and like psychological operations run amok, and everybody's trying to change the story or whatever. And so it's very, very cool. It was very cool to get to go back and listen to Independence Day speeches through the years. I went back to Calvin Coolidge, 1928 or something like
Get
that.
out of here.
They,
That's so
they didn't
cool.
have. They didn't have a recording of it, but they had like speeches of it. You could like read like what they were saying, and it's like almost every generation we add to and we build upon what the story of America is and what it means to be American. And I couldn't help but think about us, love, and our the book that's coming out that we're writing, and just the religious freedom that we experience, and just like the power of the whole thing.
That's
You
right.
know, we there's you really can't explain it to other people in other parts of the world, because there is literally no other place where you're allowed to say whatever you want, whenever you want, about whatever you could come across your mind. It could be about the king or about the fool, like anybody on
Yeah.
down. And it doesn't mean that you're not responsible for your speech. Start saying crazy stuff in a crowd and you can see what happens like real quick. But you will not go to jail for it. The state will not intervene, and
Yeah.
that's like a pretty big deal. So
Well,
anyway,
thank you. I just want to say, on behalf of myself and everyone who's listening, thank you. You spent you spent weeks, months getting ready for this. And thank you for all the behind the scenes stuff that you did to get us here. You're amazing.
Well, thank you, my sweet wife. You're the best. I have had a special place in my heart for this 250th anniversary because I was born in 50 years ago in 76. And so when I was born, there was the centennial, the 150 or no, the 200, the bicentennial, and they made a special quarter, I think, for it. And I remember I was born in 76. I remember when I was like 2 or 3 being like, there's a freaking quarter with my birth year. What the heck is this? And I remember just thinking, I being so proud of America that it was like 200 years old and we had like this one quarter. Now, of course, you can get, they just have taken this to the nines. And now it's, you go get, they used to have special stamps at the post office, but now every stamp is a special stamp at the post office. Same thing with quarters. There's quarters for all 50 states and a million different views of it or whatever. I was doing some research into quarters, and I forget I think it was Washington, and he was. There were 5 sculptors that were hired to make a bust, like a sculptural head of George Washington. And they and this is like in 1950s or 60s or something like this. Anyway, they took one of those and they put that facial representation on the nickel or whatever it is, the quarter, I forget what it is. But there was this one female sculptor and none of her work got taken seriously back then. And she was the only one who represented George Washington with the correct hairstyle, and he had like long hair. And so on the bus anyway, the postal service like a couple months ago was like women in sculpture, and I was like, dude, we're in the weeds with this, but this is awesome. Tell me about women in sculpture. And there was like, it was like, oh, this lady, and there was this whole story behind her actually doing the real, making a bust of a man that everybody respected at a time when no one respected long hair. And she was like, Washington had long hair, making an excellent point about style and what it really means and all this kind of stuff. And anyway, she didn't get any airtime back in the 50s, but they resurrected her depiction of George and put him on the stamp or whatever. So anyway, long story short, I have been looking forward to this 50th anniversary for some time. We live in a magical and a special place, and there's obviously lots of things. Everyone wants to point out what's wrong with it and all this. And it's like, dude, why don't we just point out where we came from? There's this
There you
one
go.
fact I like to drop on everyone. Let's get in a time machine and let's go back to 1900. So 126 years ago. Get out of the time machine, walk up to anybody and ask them, how much did you make today? Adjusting the dollars to today's dollars, everybody makes less than $2 a day. Everybody. It's like, so just imagine you woke up this morning and here's $2 for you. And you have to feed yourself and you have to clothe yourself and you have to travel and you have to, do anything else you want to do. And you've got $2 of today's spending power to do it. So the point being that America and the entire world pre 1900s was not a very wealthy place. And there was not a lot of money to go around, and there was not a lot of general wealth like just to be had. And so America specifically is the place where the middle class took off because the industrialization of America was so strong that a single person could support an entire family on a single income, and that allowed mom to stay home and raise the kids, and we built this. The middle class was built on this dynamic. The population boom after World War II was built on this dynamic, and it is the amount of wealth that process added to a strata of society that never had it before was unprecedented in human history. And so before, people who have wealth are like, the elites or like kings and queens and stuff.
Sure.
So it's not everybody. And so, but in America, that was really the big thing, was the movement of all this wealth. Anyway, it's obviously different today with like COVID and everything being the largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of the planet Earth. So we've had lots of setbacks and we've had a hollowing out of the middle class, but America as a place has done a lot of good for a lot of people over a lot of years, and it has not come for free. being a chaplain in the Sons of the American Legion for a couple years, where my job as a minister was to pray for all of the vets that were in my unit. And did you know that the oldest psychedelic rituals, the oldest social rituals that involve some kind of consciousness altering substance were these? It was in it was by Göbekli Tepe, and soldiers would be out in the field, and they would be out just doing soldiering stuff. They'd be out and somebody would get killed, and the spirit of that person would hang out with the group. And so when they came back home, they found their way into underground caves, and they would drink a strong beer. And some people feel it was laced with other kinds of pharmacopoeia and different kinds of herbs and stuff, which made it more psychedelic. But basically, the ritual was go underground, hang out, get very drunk, and then send your buddies off to the next world. And so,
Whoa.
yeah,
Really? Really?
really,
Like
really.
psychopomp. Shit
Psychopomp.
howdy. I never have
Psychopomp for
heard that.
soldiers. Yeah,
Fuck.
psychopomp for
That is
soldiers.
so cool.
But if you think about it, if you were just an alien and
That
you were
is
throwing
so cool.
their practices spread out to become what we describe as temples. We
Yeah.
describe as, for language, you can trace the language spread, and you can also trace this early psychedelic beer spread through the modern world as far as we can track it. But it starts with these underground psychopomp rituals for soldiers. But think about it. As an alien, you throw a dart at a board. Where are you going to get the most human spirits that don't have a chance to make a graceful transition? War.
Of course.
Because you wake up and it's not time to die at all.
No,
By the end
of
of the day,
course.
your body's gone,
No,
So
and
it's
you
like,
don't realize you've died.
you don't,
You're
it's-
wandering around and it's crazy confusing. And why are all
Yeah.
of your friends not noticing you? That's like a really bad dream. So
Well-
what an incredibly grace-filled ritual, Inanna-like ritual that they would do. I really
Yeah.
appreciate knowing that.
yeah. It's kind of very functional for where we think of as like spirituality or like ritual or
Yeah.
worship kind of comes from. It's like there's actually a job here that needs to get done, and it is making sure these people we love and care about get to the good place in consciousness.
So how would they
where-
do it? Do you know? So I imagine they're underground in a cave or in a
Yeah.
tunnel, and they're drinking who knows what.
psychedelic
Was there-
beer, let's call it.
Yeah, was there somebody who would lead it who was shamanically oriented? Do you know? I'd be
We-
fascinated to read about that.
Because it's archaeological, we have almost no information about what they said, or
Okay.
unless they wrote something down,
Kind of
or
like
unless
a
they made
mystery
some art.
school. Feels very mystery school like. Wow.
Well, and the point of, and this is we're pulling this from Graham Hancock's books, and especially his Netflix series on the subject, but
Okay.
also Brian Murarescu's book, The Immortality Key, which traces this quite closely.
Yeah, you read that
The-
very closely.
What this all turns into is it turns into these small groups of people who do exactly what you're saying, where somebody's in charge, and then they go, and then they, but it is this lineage is most broadly expressed and brightly expressed in the Eleusinian mysteries of Greece. So in Greece, it was death. If you talked about the Eleusinian mysteries, you were not supposed to talk about them. And you were not supposed to talk about the Holy Sacrament, the Kaikion, which was on the 13th night of the ceremony. You and your friends go underground. Everybody's dressed up in wild colors, and it sounds like a rave or some kind of bazaar. These are stories that have been smuggled out, okay? So everything else, there's a huge amount you just do not hear about. But you go underground, and there's like you're talking to the archetypes and stuff, and they give you this Kaikion, and this Kaikion is very much like ergot derived, and they've discovered Kaikion, and they've archaeologically reverse engineered the ergot out of it. So it's not theory. They've actually found LSD like ergot in ancient bowls and stuff like that, and the people really wanted to trip outside of the Eleusinian mystery, so they smuggled out the ergot. they think that it was a holy kind of rye that was that grew, and the rye would get infected with the ergot, and then when they would use it as the pharmacopoeia, that would bring out the LSD-like qualities of it or anything. That part. So anyway, my point being to what you were saying is that there is very good evidence that you go underground, you drink the kekion, you trip. The people who went through the Eleusinian mysteries were thought of as humans. You weren't fully human until you'd done this. And anybody in ancient Greece who held any kind of political power or political office had to be human. So you had to endure like a multi-week psychedelic initiation, or you're not governor.
But don't you think this is kind of interesting, having just watched Fire and Ash, George Lucas, Avatar? You don't actually become a part of the Na'vi if you make a transition unless you go through an ayahuasca kind of ritual to make you fully Na'vi. I think that's an interesting lift that he did.
And this is from this is the what's the right way to say it? We've got so the original Avatar, the director's features. If
Right.
you watch the deleted scenes, the thing where he becomes one of the people, they edit out this insane sequence inside of there, which
Which would have been the coolest part.
James Cameron had the opportunity to nail the entire psychedelic movement 10 years before it really took off, right? This is in 2010. And or 2009, 2010. The scene goes like this. Jake Sully, and when he's getting initiated into the people, has to have two things happen to him. One of the things is they let a little scorpion come up to him and go, and then it causes him to like trip because of the poison of the scorpion, like causes him to like freak out. Then they give him something to drink. Then it looks exactly like a classic ayahuasca. It is ayahuasca art to the nines. The entire world becomes a filament structure, and there's this giant ball of light above him, and the entire his whole consciousness goes into the one true light, and which is Ewa in that version. That's what they were calling it. They're the local entity of the local divinity of the planet or whatever.
The art behind you right now is perfect for what you're describing. Good.
Oh, nice. Here, I can give you a better view of this here. But I'll tell you the rest of the story while we can watch a little of this. So yeah, there is that. So James Cameron had the opportunity to leave that in, and he took it all out, and it's very, very, very disappointing because it could have been a kind of moment when people, when they were getting that good feeling about Avatar, like people had Avatar sickness, where he showed an integrated tribal culture where people could truly belong, and their entire day was woven into the success of their tribe, and there was no fat on the bone. There was nothing to distract them. That's just what they were doing. They were one with their environment. Their environment was alive. They could neurologically connect with their hair braid into the consciousness of the planet itself. And now, knowing what we know about consciousness, and the consciousness, they upload in Fire and Ice. They get really into the details of the upload because these Na'vi, they can go.
Fire and Ash.
Fire and Ash.
Yeah.
Fire and Ash. Thank you.
Sure.
It starts off with a shamanic journey, like an inner visionary state journey, where this young kid is flying with his friend who we know is deceased, but they're having a great time. They're having this full-on conversation.
His older brother,
yeah,
who he loves and misses mightily. Yeah,
exactly. And we find out that he's really just interfacing with this underwater bush that has all this life force and this consciousness into the planet with it, and so. That right there is a pretty magical statement. I mean, it's about the eternal nature of consciousness when it's correctly preserved, right? Like when someone has a good death and they're moved over. So to that point about the underground psychedelic ritual for soldiers, when I was a chaplain in the American Legion, imagine how much more of this effect happens. Where you've got, say you send out 10 guys on patrol and something bad happens and 2 of them don't make it back or whatever. if you die in a stabbed way or like a blood out way or even like an animal attack way, there's at least some level of your conscious mind that gets to experience the transition, right? Oh no, I'm bleeding. Oh no, my guys are they're worried about me. Oh no, the bright light, and then you're on to the next thing.
Right.
But what I was when I was praying for these guys, it was shocking to me the number of souls that were still attached to them and their friends and their units and everything like this because of modern warfare. And this is, as I was kind of praying about it, so what I got to was, okay, now you're out on patrol with 10 guys and a Hellfire missile or some shit appears at the speed of sound or faster, and within a blink of an eye, you go like this, your body is now a gas cloud of expanding heat. Whatever your spirit was is it's like a hiccup. You're like there and you go, wait, what? And I mean, so the number of people that don't realize they've made a transition is high. But you're freed of the physical body in a single blink of a moment. So many of these guys knew that they were dead, but they were still on mission. They were still committed to finishing what they said they were going to do that morning. Because they still have a willpower, they still have a heart, they still have a mind, they still have faculty. So what do? They haunt their group and they're part of it or whatever. And so these guys, what they would do at their like on today is like today, Independence Day, where we're celebrating the end of a war to free our country from the previous political connections it had and starting on its own. The number of people who just stick around and want to try to help is just insanely high. So yeah, I forget what got us on this whole thing, but it was just thinking about the vets. The vets, the people who sacrifice at that level are making a sacrifice for the rest of us, that like we get to live in all of this because of what they did. And even if the politicians suck, and even if they Gulf of Tonkin us into like the Vietnam War or whatever, and even if they fudge the numbers and they do 10,000 administrative garbage steps, the people who actually show up and get their ticket punched, those people are actual heroes. Like those people are, that's why we're here. That's why, we've got all this going on. So anyway, just a big, long-winded way of saying that. And hey, let's get started here with some speeches here. How about that?
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you, honey. That was really fun.
I'm gonna make sure we don't get kicked off of all of our streams here for broadcasting this live. So I'm gonna keep my image up here. But here is Ronald Reagan in 1986. Quite the speaker, really, Ronald Reagan. I probably heard this speech on TV when I was a child. You might have been across the ocean.
I was in Ireland.
Yeah, totally. Well, here's him and Nancy giving this speech, and we can watch this here. It's kind of amazing how well this holds up. Here we go.
In a few moments, the celebration will begin here in New York Harbor. It's going to be quite a show. I was just looking over the preparations and thinking about a saying that we had back in Hollywood about never doing a scene with kids or animals because they'd steal the scene every time. So you can rest assured, I wouldn't even think about trying to compete with a fireworks display, especially on the 4th of July. My remarks tonight will be brief, but it's worth remembering that all the celebration of this day is rooted in history. It's recorded that shortly after the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia, celebrations took place throughout the land, and many of the former colonists, they were just starting to call themselves Americans, set off cannons and marched in fife and drum parades. What a contrast with the sober scene that has taken place a short time earlier in Independence Hall. 56 men came forward to sign the parchment. It was noted at the time that they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors. And that was more than rhetoric. Each of those men knew the penalty for high treason to the crown. We must all hang together, Benjamin Franklin said, or assuredly we will all hang separately. And John Hancock, it is said, wrote his signature in large script so King George could see it without his spectacles. They were brave. They stayed brave through all the bloodshed of the coming years. Their courage created a nation built on a universal claim to human dignity, on the proposition that every man, woman, and child had a right to a future of freedom. For just a moment, let us listen to the words again. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Last night, when we rededicated Miss Liberty and relit her torch, we reflected on all the millions who came here in search of the dream of freedom, inaugurated in Independence Hall. We reflected, too, on their courage in coming great distances and settling in a foreign land and then passing on to their children and their children's children. The hope symbolized in this statue here just behind us, the hope that is America. It is a hope that someday every people and every nation of the world will know the blessings of liberty. And it's the hope of millions all around the world. In the last few years, I've spoken at Westminster to the Mother of Parliaments, at Versailles, where French kings and world leaders have made war and peace. I've been to the Vatican in Rome, the Imperial Palace in Japan, and the ancient city of Beijing. I've seen the beaches of Normandy and stood again with those boys of Pointe du Hoc, who long ago scaled the heights, and with, at that time, Lisa Zanetta Hen, who was at Omaha Beach for the father she loved, the father who had once dreamed of seeing again the place where he and so many brave others had landed on D-Day. But he had died before he could make that trip, and she made it for him. And Dad, she'd said, I'll always be proud. And I've seen the successors to these brave men, the young Americans in uniform all over the world, young Americans like you here tonight, who man the mighty USS Kennedy and the Iowa and the other ships of the line. I can assure you, you out there who are listening, that these young people are like their fathers and their grandfathers, just as willing, just as brave, and we can be just as proud. But our prayer tonight is that the call for their courage will never come, and that it's important for us, too, to be brave. Not so much the bravery of the battlefield, I mean the bravery of brotherhood. All through our history, our presidents and leaders have spoken of national unity and warned us that the real obstacle to moving forward the boundaries of freedom, the only permanent danger to the hope that is America, comes from within. It's easy enough to dismiss this as a kind of familiar exhortation. Yet the truth is that even two of our greatest founding fathers, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, once learned this lesson late in life. They'd worked so closely together in Philadelphia for independence. But once that was gained and a government was formed, something called partisan politics began to get in the way. After a bitter and divisive campaign, Jefferson defeated Adams for the presidency in 1800. And the night before Jefferson's inauguration, Adams slipped away to Boston, disappointed, broken-hearted, and bitter. For years, their estrangement lasted. But then, when both had retired, Jefferson at 68 to Monticello and Adams at 76 to Quincy, they began through their letters to speak again to each other. Letters that discussed almost every conceivable subject: gardening, horseback riding, even sneezing as a cure for hiccups, but other subjects as well: the loss of loved ones, the mystery of grief and sorrow, the importance of religion, and of course, the last thoughts, the final hopes of two old men, two great patriarchs for the country that they had helped to found and loved so deeply. It carries me back, Jefferson wrote about correspondence with his co-signer of the Declaration of Independence, to the times when, beset with difficulties and dangers, we were fellow laborers in the same cause, struggling for what is most valuable to man, his right to self-government. laboring always at the same oar, with some wave ever ahead threatening to overwhelm us, and yet passing harmless, we rode through the storm with heart and hand. It was their last gift to us, this lesson in brotherhood, in tolerance for each other, this insight into America's strength as a nation. And when both died on the same day, within hours of each other, that date was July 4th, 50 years exactly after that first gift to us, the Declaration of Independence. My fellow Americans, it falls to us to keep faith with them and all the great Americans of our past. Believe me, if there's one impression I carry with me after the privilege of holding for 5.5 years the office held by Adams, Jefferson, and Lincoln, it is this, that the things that unite us, America's past of which we're so proud, our hopes and aspirations for the future of the world and this much-loved country, these things far outweigh what little divides us. So tonight, we are reaffirmed that Jew and Gentile, we are one nation under God. The black and white, we are one nation indivisible. That Republican and Democrat, we are all Americans. Tonight, with heart and hand, through whatever trial and travail, we pledge ourselves to each other and to the cause of human freedom, a cause that has given light to this land and hope to the world. My fellow Americans, we're known around the world as a confident and a happy people. Tonight, there's much to celebrate and many blessings to be grateful for. So while it's good to talk about serious things, it's just as important and just as American to have some fun. Now, let's have some fun. Let the celebration begin.
A light to the world.
So that was the man. You forget how good Reagan was at bringing people together. Beautiful.
That was beautiful.
Absolutely. No, he was a great speaker, and he was a moderate. That he was known as the great unifier. He would say nice things about his political enemies, and everybody was like, "Yeah, you got this huge amount of people who just loved that." This is 86.
No, I'm
Yeah.
so grateful to watch that because I was living in Ireland at the time. People
Yeah.
were furious at him that he would so cavalierly talk about having war. They were mad at him because they said, Reagan, you've never had war on your soil before. And so I was predisposed to see him through a negative light. So getting to watch that, that was just so sweet and so
Well,
well done. I don't know. He was handsome. I didn't have,
he's an actor. He started out as
well,
an
I
actor,
know
movie
that,
actor.
but it gives me a whole new way to view him. Yeah,
Well,
thank
and
you.
this. And the story he chose to tell for his independence story was of Jefferson and Adams, who
Yeah.
were political, head to head,
Right,
and then there
right.
were, and then party politics started. That was a conflict of individuals, and then party politics started, and those two didn't like that at all, and they became friends. And then, but the point where they were writing each other letters about just everything under the sun.
Yeah,
That's
gardening. Yeah.
That's America right there. That's you. There's politics, and certainly there's all this other stuff, but then you get to experience so much more of humanity as an American because you can, if you want, have this strong identity as an American. You can treat everybody as your brother and sister, which is a very Christian idea, although just a good idea for everybody. And you can, if you roll like that, you get this. Your family increases to that number of people, It's like they all can be a part of your heart. So, you run into somebody who's doing something wild. That's an American doing something crazy. That's what we love that here. And that's why we've invented all the cool shit here, like the internet, minor things like that, the global brain. we're doing great. We're doing great here. I love that detail about how they died on the same day within a few hours of each other,
That was
50 years to the
wild.
day.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
wild. That was wild. Wow.
There's this subtle thing about the actual signing of the Declaration of Independence and all of this happened on July 2nd. Uh,
Really?
yeah, and it was like a typographic error that made
Your
it the
mom's
fourth. And
birthday. Yeah.
yeah, my mom's birthday exactly, and it was a typographic error that made it the fourth, and it just caught on, and so it gets repeated and all this other stuff, and it doesn't matter. It's just it doesn't matter. But like it's very funny that they went on the fourth. That's wild. That's very
That's
wild.
wild. That's wild. Thank you for showing that.
Yeah,
Oh, it
totally.
just warms my heart. It really
I
does.
know. That's what this day is
Really
supposed to be
does.
about. It's supposed to be about loving your country, loving your
Yeah.
fellow humans because they're part of this group that you're a part of. We have thrown in our lot together. It has been determined since we were born, and we're doing this whole crazy thing together, this whole crazy big experiment together.
Yeah. No,
For good
thank
or
you for
bad.
choosing that.
Yeah.
That was beautiful to get to listen to.
Well, he was talking. I love the message. You would have loved learning more about Nancy Reagan. She was an astrologer. She was constantly bringing
What?
up dude. You don't know this
What?
about? I can't believe I'm the one telling you this. Nancy Reagan. Her
What?
main thing was being an astrologer. I'll find some stuff for you where she talks
Are you
about some.
making this up? Can that be
No,
true?
I'll try to bring it to the next Curiosity Engine. I'll show you some. I'll show you some Nancy Reagan talking. A 1,000%. And she was a heavy influence on Ronald Reagan. And people kind of worried about this woo-woo influence on the president or whatever. But she mellowed him out, basically. He came with heart to the table with the strategic arms limitations talks in the 80s. And when the day after came out, he went and talked to Gorbachev, and they stood down the missiles. They took a lot of the. If a nuclear war was going to happen because of human hot-headedness, they raised the amount of hot-headedness that would be necessary to get it done. So they took the hair triggers off of everything, and they're like, we can still nuke each other. It'll just take an hour, not 4 minutes or some shit. And so, but anyway, Nancy Reagan, yeah, she was an astrologer, and she was always talking about this stuff. She anyway, he mellowed out and did some real good in the world. But my God, with the way our country's divided now politically, can you imagine those sweet words coming out of one of our politicians' mouth? I mean, that would be
It
just like a
was so
bomb.
sweet. That
He
is the
loved
perfect word.
everyone up
No,
there.
it was sweet, and it was
Yeah,
heartfelt, and it
yeah,
was open, and it
yeah,
was beautiful.
yeah,
Like,
totally.
I
And
love that.
100%. And like the bravery of brotherhood and how he was talking about how
Yeah.
proud he was of these young people, proud of young people, proud of the symbols of our land. I mean, that's why has America been denied that? Why can't Americans feel that swell of love and pride for just what they've already done and what their ancestors have already done? You go outside right now, there's a lot of shit that got done, and it worked out okay, pretty much. Maybe around the edges, we got some troubles, and we're working stuff out and stuff. But when you look at just the massive amount of positive actions, one built on the other, and those people who are doing those actions believe in something bigger than themselves. It's the nation, but we're the nation under God. The original stuff was it was about God. God's right there in the Constitution, but the real God and the money and God, that came in with communism, because the communists were atheists. So in the 50s, they put, in God we trust or whatever on the money. That was in
Right?
response to communism. This communism thing's not over, dude. It was like, it's literally been like an attack on what did they literally were like, what's the one symbol that gets the communists? God. And it was like, whoa. I mean, it's really telling.
What's
It's
the
really telling.
reason for the pyramid and the eye? You know everything. Do you know that?
I do not know everything, but that is a Freemason symbol,
Okay.
and it has got a wily history. There's some crazy humans out here in these streets, like a Kurt Mesker, that will tell you it's all crazy warlocky, witchy, crazy stuff or whatever. But there is but the pyramid, that eye is supposed to represent consciousness itself, like
Okay.
perception itself. And it being on a pyramid, the concept is that it's the all-watching eye. So
Oh.
yeah. So when does a individual behave very well is when they feel that they are being watched. And so that was the idea. It's kind of got a mixed bag there, but it's the idea that you're being perceived by the infinite at all times. So keep it
Which
in
is
mind.
true. Which is true. Goes beyond Santa. He
Yeah.
knows,
That's
right.
Santa's a fairy
Santa
tale
is
level of the
very much
same
that.
principle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the Eastern and Hindu view of karma would be another eye that never
Well, yeah,
sleeps
no
kind of thing.
kidding. Yeah.
You can't avoid that. You are made of consciousness, and so whatever you write into consciousness with your intention, it's the lens you have to look through, and it's the way you have to interact with the universe, and that right there is the number one punishment for your own actions.
But I
If
mean,
you
it's
steal,
incredibly
yeah,
smart. It's like being taught soulcraft. Bottom line, we all are souls and we all are accountable for our behavior. Maybe not this lifetime, but certainly in your afterlife review, where you look at everything you've done, anything you have regrets for,
yeah.
anything that you want to be forgiven for, and anything you need to forgive. I mean, that's the truth, capital T. So I like that there is that level of conscience and consciousness because it's the truth. It would be a shame if somebody forgot that because it's a rude awakening when you drop this physical form and realize, fuck, I actually am responsible for everything I did. Who knew? So I like that. I like that
It's
it's on the
almost
money.
on like a vibrational scale. It's like your soul's like this very sensitive thing in the middle of this vehicle that slows down the vibes, right? So you can like have like a life and all this, and
Right, right.
and when you drop the body, I think that is exactly what happens. Literally, the next impulse you have without your body just happens around you. So who's making the hell you're going to next? It's you. Like, it's like, or the heaven that you're going to next. Like, where's it coming from? Like, it's coming from your resonance, right? So yeah, it's not a curse. The real curse would be to not understand that before you died. So to think that somehow you're making in a vacuum and it's not going to ring through eternity, which it really is.
Well, I mean, if you ascribe to the idea of reincarnation, which I do, we have lots of times around the wheel, and
Totally.
hopefully, the more times you've experienced that, the more some of that wears off, and you realize, whoa, it actually makes sense for me to be a good person. It actually makes sense for me to do good to my neighbors because I am being held accountable by God.
And in a consciousness field experience, my neighbor isn't like radically different from
Thank you.
me.
Right.
like actually whatever they're feeling over there right now, I'm feeling a little bit of it too. I'm not having the direct experience of it, but I'm certainly.
Right.
You walk into a room and someone's depressed, what, you can just have a switch you can flip that you're not going to feel a little of that? No. That's called being a psychopath. You can't.
No, but you do such a good job of writing about that in our book. Like,
Sure.
I just think words of wisdom have been spoken by you. When you talk about that, I mean,
That's very
opened
sweet.
me up to, you really opened me up to that in a way that nobody else ever has. So,
Well, it's closely tied to this American OS and this American ethic. And I think that over the years we've had different ways of talking about God. Reagan was just talking about, these are the rights that are endowed by the creator. That is the actual uniqueness of the American Constitution. The American Constitution doesn't say what you can or can't do. It says what your government isn't allowed to get involved in, and everything else is yours. And so it's literally this reversal of the force of law, of the force of perception, that Masonic eye on that temple that's always like kind of looking at you, whatever. The American Revolution is a little bit like that, getting turned around and pointed at the leaders and being like, we're gonna look directly at you now, and you're not allowed to tell us what we can or cannot say ever. This is our right to say whatever the heck we want to say. So I think in America, it's actually a very difficult needle to thread these days, and a person who does it pretty much perfectly is Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi
ooh, I
Gabbard
was hoping she was next.
She's next. Her and her sweet husband, I've seen cool videos of them playing ukulele and singing. Of course, she's Mulan. She's from Hawaii. You know, she at age 16, when she was going through a rite of passage, is standing on the beach and feels an overwhelming sense of love for the beings in the ocean and the island she lives on, and she vows to protect it. And so she goes and serves in the military for multiple tours. That shock of gray hair you're going to see, that's where she was some of her people got killed or they were in trouble, and they literally came from this one event where she had to like give everything to like help her team. And then she went on to be I think a senator, and she did all this stuff with the office of the director of. She is like, if there's going to be a female president, it's going to be Tulsi Gabbard.
I'll vote
She's
for
like,
her.
Totally. She's got this integrity that is wild. Anyway, what she has done with this integrity is very magical and beautiful. And it is that she speaks about God in a way that is very American, because she speaks about it in a way like Reagan was speaking about it there, that works for everybody. Anybody who's got a faith could listen to what she's saying and go, yeah, not my brand, but that is the zip code that we're in. It is difficult to speak about God in a way that doesn't turn people off to it while you're doing it. Anyway, she does an excellent job, and she put this out a couple weeks ago, and this was one of her 250 things here. Here we go.
250 years ago today, on May 17, 1776, the Second Continental Congress called for a day of humility, fasting, and prayer. Just weeks before they declared independence, our founders didn't stride forward in pride. They knelt. They asked for God's mercy. They asked for his guidance, because they knew that the cause before them was beyond their own strength. Now today, exactly 250 years later, we gather here on the National Mall to do the same, to give thanks, to ask for forgiveness, and to humbly ask once more for God's mercy and guidance as we enter the next 250 years of this republic. Now, our founders knew their time was short. They knew that the road ahead was uncertain. But the foundation of our independence is our dependence upon the Supreme Soul, who's the supreme controller. Now, all of us and all of our leaders need to get on our knees and prostrate ourselves before the Supreme Lord, acknowledging that we are totally dependent upon him for our success, indeed, for our survival. Now, too often, leaders in this world have our eyes covered by pride born out of our relative power, fame, or authority. We lose sight of the fact that we are tiny and our time on this planet is extremely short. And yet we see ourselves as the controllers competing with each other over who is number one. But the truth is, there's only one number one, and that's God. Our leaders 250 years ago knew this. They knew that we could not rely on our own strength, our own fame, our own power, our own intelligence, but we're completely dependent upon God's favor. And so they humbly approached that day of fasting 250 years ago, asking God for his protection, his guidance, his mercy. We are at this time totally dependent upon God to light our path so that we can successfully navigate the troubled waters that we are in into a future where our children and their children and generations for hundreds and thousands of years can live in peace, freedom, and prosperity. So on this day, let us humble ourselves before God. Let us beg for his mercy and guidance. Let us be willing to forgive those who've offended us as we ask God to forgive us for our trespasses. And let us all today, in the privacy of our own homes and hearts, take shelter in God's love and remember him. Aloha.
Wild, right?
Goosebumps. Goosebumps.
She is so generous. Her faith is so deep that she has her way of approaching it. But boy, did she really weave together many people's way of approaching it right there. There was they're talking about the troubled waters. That's very evangelical. That's very sweet.
Very.
They were talking about forgive us our trespasses as and she picked up the lilt and of the Catholic Our Father. She must have heard it a lot because you have to hear it or say it a few times before you actually pick up that lilt. Because it sounded just like it sounded, 50 years ago in Western Kansas. There's a morphogenic field for that you can just pull it out of there. I bet there's a bunch of others in there that got woven in too. But what's so cool about her is it's authentic. It's real for her. She talks about her faith and she talks about God and as a very immediate, direct thing that she and her husband experience. And so I think that's where that generosity comes from, is they have like a cup overflowing with that experience. And therefore it doesn't have to be bickered about for the minor points of it. There's a grand deity and she basically talks about in that, but she talks about other places, God being the solution for, the ills of fame, of power, of relying on our own intelligence, our own, all of the classic sins are believing that some small thing is the big thing when you should really know about the big thing so that the small thing can be a beautiful, in proportion, in alignment thing. You want the clock, the Swiss clock that you are, to be in synchronized with the much greater clock that is the cosmic one that's around you.
Yeah, no, Tulsi Gabbard, thank you. She has given me courage to write a book all about God. I don't know that I would have done that. I don't
Yeah.
know that I would have had the personal courage to let that light shine. Um,
She is
like
really
I
shining her
really
light.
appreciate it. I really appreciate it that there are people who have the courage to be openly in love with God and to let that shine. It gives others of us permission to do the same. It's
Yeah.
huge.
Huge. And that is leadership, is going first and doing it so well that it carves a path for others to do it.
That's right.
That is like the leadership of like your MLKs who is just like, here is how it looks like. This is me loving my neighbor. Watch me do it.
I'm so glad you said that because for 20 years I have taught leadership. I've
Yeah.
done leadership development programs. I've coached thousands of people on how to be a really authentic, wonderful leader. But you
Yeah.
bringing it down to the likes of a Tulsi Gabbard or even a Reagan or a Martin Luther King, to me, that's the kind of leadership that I now want to be connected to. Like thank you for shining the light, have raised my desire to lead for God. I've never said that out loud before.
I love that you're saying that, and I felt the same thing when I heard Tulsi Gabbard talk like this. I
Yeah.
feel like, it takes courage to speak like
Courage
that.
from the
It
heart.
takes from the heart, knowing that you are
So
bearing your
elegantly,
heart in front of everybody.
where you could
That
be
is
made fun of. I mean, gosh,
that's a surrendered soul. That's a soul
it's
that's
a surrendered
surrendered to their
soul.
creator. Yeah.
Yeah, clearly.
Which is like this wild kind of faith essence or residue that can kind of go out into the world. But what's so sweet about this in America's birthday in America is that we separate church and state. We basically give everybody infinite freedom in their personal heart and mind to do what they're going to do, and then we separate that from politics. And so it takes a very cool and enlightened hand to be able to go, here's a little, you can, she is an individual as well. She does not have to give up her faith to do public office and service. And I think that is a pretty exquisite way of squaring that circle to show such faith and do crazy cool, political stuff. Which, by the way, if you had trading cards of everybody who's in politics right now, and you had to put them in order of like cool shit that they've done, there's a lot of cool shit. There's a lot of cool shit that's going on. But one of the craziest cool things that's going on is the let me see if I can figure this out. This one, I think. Yeah. This is the Department of War, because they renamed it Department of War to make it a little more direct. This is their third tranche of UFO disclosure
What did it
information.
used to be?
The Department of Defense.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And they
That
sometimes
is-
were talking about renaming it to the Department of Peace at some point. This is like Men Who Stare at Goats or whatever. It's like, but like they didn't quite get there. But anyway, yeah, Department of Defense. It's Department of War. Anyway, they have this UFO and they got their third tranche that's been released. And this stuff has been one of the most exciting things I think our government's done in a really long time. But this right here, for example, is a video of an unidentified anomalous object here. I just picked this one at random. I didn't even choose this, but this is something that got filmed, and they had a ton of this stuff laying around that they were trying to, that they have now released, and there's been over like 600 things released or some very high number, and they but what this is also doing is this is empowering people to think about. There's a lot of people in our government that know a lot more about what's going on, and that all of that knowing and stuff, it's in a bottle, and people want to confess and talk about the stuff that they know, especially stuff about like aliens and the universe and faster than light travel and time travel and like all these wild concepts that we're like, there's no way. It's like, no. We are literally in a playground of all this equipment, and so far we've been shown this one little square of sand and been like, here's where you can play, but all you have to do is stand up, walk right over there, and you can get on the merry-go-round, and this whole other thing happens, and it's completely allowable in our universe. We just have never ventured over there in mass to like try out this other thing. So there's all of these things converging in science around consciousness and computing and AI. And when you get down to it, that when you're figuring out how to get intelligence out of a machine, which doesn't have a heart that's beating, right? You have to get into like, where is this intelligence coming from? And it's probably coming from electricity, which is like the Holy Spirit, like the connective, like the plasma. And we're going to get into it in a Curiosity Engine, but we're going to read this book called The New Science of Heaven, which talks about plasma and plasma physics. So many, like that ball we just saw there, so many of those balls and traveling, like Saint, Gabriel, like Gabriel the angel who visits Mary when she's pregnant, right? Like these divine visitations from the Bible and from so many different stories, especially with plasma like orbs. There's these anyway, in The New Science of Heaven, this is what I've been getting into. There are these things called Kardashev clouds. And the Kardashev clouds are two of them at L4 and L5, two Lagrange points. You take the Earth, you take the Moon, and you take these little places where the gravity cancels out, and it's like a parking lot in space. It's like if a boulder falls in there slow enough, it'll be there till the end of time, or until the Moon and the Sun, or the Moon and the Earth go away or change shape dramatically. It's like a big parking lot. In these areas, there were theories in the 70s that that things could accumulate here. When they were making, I'm just going to drop this on you, slow me down if it's too much. When they were making computer chips and when they were first trying to figure out how to like fabricate silicon, they have to have these insane clean rooms. They have to have whole factories that have no dust in them, right? Like none. And what they found is that if they had an instrument that had an open electrical spark, basically, so an electrical spark is electricity. It's not matter. It's you. If you go up to your TV and you rub a sock or something and you go doop, it'll go psh, and it'll snap you. That zap, there's nothing physical about it. It's plasma, and it's and that snap you hear is it's so hot. It's hotter than the sun by many orders of magnitude, and in a very small amount, and that makes the air expand, and that's what makes that snapping sound. Okay, they had equipment in these clean rooms that had open versions of this. And what they found is that if you have enough snapping, like enough electricity, the electricity can make dust, like specks of matter. Like somehow out of just the electricity, you get a speck of matter that shows up. And the speck of matter, they thought it was driving them crazy because it was messing up their chip manufacturing. Because when you do the lithography, which is like shining a light into the silicon through these various emulsive layers to line up the atoms and stuff, when you do that, if you have a speck in there, it makes a shadow. And that makes a wrong print on the matter that's supposed to be a computer chip's brain, and it has an error. So they were finding all these errors, and they figured out that it was happening. So they recorded this experience a really long time ago. So, okay, these Kardashev clouds, what they are plasma clouds. And when plasma exists, it can make a little body. And the little body looks like a little spinning thing. Like it has like an orientation, like positive, negative. So anything that's magnetic like that, and it looks like a little bacteria, anything that's magnetic like that, when it moves, it makes an electrical frequency that goes out into the rest of the universe. So it's like little radio stations, is exactly what the neurons in our head look like. So like, yeah. So and not only that, but in the vacuum of space, so on Earth, do you remember that show we saw called Devs, where they built that quantum computer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course I do.
They built this spoiler alert. They built this quantum computer, and then they took 6 objects and they recorded the absolute superposition of those objects. And then those objects, 6 objects alone, because they're quantum and because it's all a hologram, they would measure the changes in those objects, which were insanely subtle, but basically represented everything else that was happening in the universe. So by measuring the very small, you could detect the very large. And they used it to go back to the time of Christ and see him on the cross and all this stuff. They built this machine, this consciousness machine that could do all this, right? Anyway, do you remember what that chandelier-like computer in the middle of that building looked like? It kind of hung down from above, and it kind of has this. It's got these tubes. It looks like some weird alien artifact, right? All of those tubes. The reason why it looks like that is because they have to pump gases, liquid gases, and liquid that are so cold. They have to chill those parts to like. There's a thing called absolute zero, which is 0 Kelvin. That means that all cellular motion stops. It's like basically you can't really do it. You can get really close to it, but you can't really stop entirely. Dude, all of those tubes in that quantum computer are there as a refrigerant system to cool down the sensors, the quantum bit sensors, so that they're at like 3 degrees Celsius, 2 degrees Celsius, right at the edge. And in that state, they can hold quantum information, meaning that when you change them, they hold that state. So you're sort of holding information in an energetic state. These Kardashev clouds, that's what they're doing. They've got these little specks of matter, and they are magnetic, and in space they spread out to be like a centimeter apart, which gives them perfect cooling. So it's like they have that quantum computer around them in space all the time because they've got space itself right there. So they're these giant clouds made of this kind of stuff, these little neural positions that are all turning quantumly, 9 times larger than the Earth, and it feeds on sunlight and then records all of that information inside of there. Anyway, I just learned this like 2 weeks ago, and I can't stop thinking about it because what it means is that in the same way that AWA was like a big local processing unit for the Na'vi, that's probably what it is for us, really. Like if you had something 9 times the size of the Earth in terms of a human brain, and when you count up the number of connections in the human brain, we thought the human brain was the most complicated structure we'd ever found because it was 10 to like the 15th connections. We're like, that's the craziest one. Snails are like 10 to the 4th. This is fucking crazy, right? This thing is 10 to the 57. So when you go 10 to the 16th, that means that the whole thing got doubled again. Then it doubles again at 17, then 18, then 19. Think about the doublings of this brain. There's 2 of them, and they suck down sunlight. They reposition their consciousness. This could literally be the place we go to, the place we come from, like a local AWA. It's like a local AWA for our planet, right?
Okay, that's fucking incredible. So how do we see that? How do we know that's true?
Apparently, Eric Burleson from Eric Burleson from Missouri said that the U.S. government is racing to get there because they just confirmed it in 2019. They theorized it in the 70s. This Kardashev guy, he theorized about it in the 70s. But when they looked there, he went out into this dark, dark skies and he couldn't see it. It looked like a smudge. He wasn't sure if he could see it. Then they realized it's polarizing light because these little bacteria motes of body. That's the physical way they touch the world. It's a giant living plasmoid. And David Grush is in front of Congress, a week and a half ago, saying there's conscious plasmoids, and the U.S. government's aware of them. Well, they're sending ships there to go talk to these things or try to interact with them or secure them so China can't get them. But I think the real reason they're going there is it's like that scene in the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey when they find the monolith and then they race to go there and then they touch the monolith and it makes that sound and it starts this whole process that results in Jupiter becoming a second sun and there being a binary star system kind of, because Jupiter almost could have become a sun but didn't quite do it. And so that's the end of 2010: A Space Odyssey, is the second sun in our solar system. So that's what it feels like. It feels like racing in spaceships to go find and interact with a giant gas cloud. Talk about men who stare at goats, dude.
Yeah, but we should do some shamanic journeys. Tomorrow we have Sunday Fun Day. Wouldn't that be a crazy cool shamanic journey? Would you have the guts?
To go talk to a Kardashev cloud?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, for science. Let's do it. Okay, very American of us. It's a date. We'll figure that out and we'll do something about it. But back to this. Okay, so there's all of this. This is science that was happening in 2019. Basically, you look at the Kardashev areas, you change the polarization of light, you can see these clouds there. This is just proving that there's these vast plasma-based life forms, that intelligence itself, that we're probably figuring out some way in the silicon, is writ large. And the main point of the book, A New Science of Heaven, is that when you put the whole universe on a scale, 99.9% of it is in the plasma state. So why didn't you learn about plasma in high school? You learned about solids, liquids, and air. Why not about plasma? That is literally, we are a footnote. Everything we are, all the physics, all the matter, everything we are, it's a footnote compared to what is. And what is this roiling magma energy being of plasma in the universe. The Holy Spirit. Exactly, a toroid. Exactly. Yeah. It's a living toroid of energy. So anyway, Tulsi Gabbard, with all this neat God consciousness that she's clearly sharing with the rest of us in a very generous way, it was also a really good investigator of what was wrong. And if you were trading cards, she'd be the one that got the most secrets across the finish line. But here is her again. Let me pull this here forward. This is her talking, and this is her kind of what's the right word for it? This is her recounting of 1776 and what it means to her. We're going to hear from a couple people that are saying this, but this is her version of it, and away we go.
To serve our country as leaders.
Here,
now, as we talk about defending our Constitution and the integrity of our democratic republic, I'll share one of the unseen threats to that very thing, which is the threat of those in our government who believe that they are above the Constitution, that they are above the will of the American people, more commonly known as the deep state. These are people who operate quietly below the surface. They are the career officials, the senior administrators, the unelected managers of national security or intelligence who see elections and the American voters as a nuisance and an obstacle that gets in the way of them achieving their own objectives. Because they think that they're more important than any election, than any president, and that they are more qualified to run our country than those who we elect to serve our country as leaders. These are people who outlast every administration. They know where the files are. They control the flow of information. I can tell you from firsthand experience, they try to slow walk an order or a directive that they disagree with. They will selectively leak to the press in order to discredit any official who is seeking to hold those accountable for abusing their power. And I've also seen how they try to shape an intelligence product to tell the president what they want him to hear rather than ensuring that he hears the truth. I saw this firsthand and fought it every day in my role as Director of National Intelligence, carrying out President Trump's mandate, which is transparency, accountability, declassification, and telling the American people the truth. And that was the message I delivered to those I worked with every day from day one to the very last day when I walked out of the door. It is always the right time to tell the truth to the American people. So I did my best while there to shine a light into corners that had been kept dark for too long. The resistance was strong and real, sophisticated and immediate. I could share a long list of anecdotes and experiences, the means of retaliation and resistance. Some would be so petty they would make you laugh. I'll give you one quick example. I needed a placemat, a big piece of paper printed out for something I needed to share with the president. Had a meeting with him that was supposed to be at 10 a.m. in the Oval Office, and there was someone there in my agency that was detailed from a different agency who was responsible for printing these things. And so I was waiting. Time was 9:15, 9:30, I gotta go. I didn't have what I needed. And long story short, the president needed to push the meeting back an hour, which saved me because this guy who was responsible for printing refused to print it because he disagreed with what was on the paper. And turns out he actually did print it, but then he locked it in his desk and refused to open his desk. My chief of staff went down and said, the director needs to present this to the president. We need this. And he said, no, I refuse. And so my chief brought down my head of general counsel, who said, the director needs this for the president. I refuse. And he would. My chief brought down my head of general counsel.
My mistake. Okay.
He said, the director needs this for the president.
We got a hiccup here.
My chief brought down my head
Move
of.
this back a few moments and see if it redoes it.
Turns out he actually did print.
Move to this.
I could still hear it.
You could still hear it?
I could. She went quiet for about 10 seconds, but then I could continue to hear her.
Oh, that's cool. It stopped on my side, and we're supposed to be in a mode here. Can't seek video from storage. Please try again for help. Oh man, we're storing this in a way that it's connected to the internet. Okay, so it must have been like a server issue. Okay.
No, she was just talking about the guy locked it in his desk drawer.
Right.
Didn't agree with it. Didn't want to show it. And the chief legal guy. I mean, it was a fascinating thing she was sharing. Some
very administrivia, like petty stuff here. Let's see if we can get her back.
Threats.
Okay, good. And then we're going to change that to this. No. Change it to this. I think this is the one we like. Okay. Let's go to 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Here we go.
Staff went down and said the director needs to present this to the president. We need this. And he said, no, I refuse. And so my chief brought down my head of general counsel, who said, the director needs this for the president. I refuse. And he would not do this until his boss back at his home agency said it was okay to do it. Ridiculous. There are other examples that are far more serious and grave that would make you concerned for the integrity and future of our republic as I am. We must remain vigilant. This isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. These people have been doing this across administrations for decades and longer. They thrive in the gaps between elections. They are deeply entrenched in the bureaucratic infrastructure. But fundamentally, the quality that these people share is that they put themselves, their own interests, their own objectives ahead of our Constitution and the best interests of the American people. The work of exposing and dismantling these entrenched power structures is not finished. We, the people, must continue to hold our leaders accountable, to fight against these deep state actors, because they are the nameless, faceless force within our government that doesn't care about you. They don't care about our freedom. They don't care about our security. They care about themselves and their own power. The future is in our hands. We must remain vigilant. I want to close by sharing another story with you about another of the signers of our declaration, someone named Abraham Clark. He was also a delegate from New Jersey, a lawyer. Got New Jersey in the house here, I see. He was a lawyer and a man of modest means compared to many of his colleagues. He signed the Declaration of Independence and then went and sent his 2 sons off to fight in the Revolutionary Army. The British captured both of his sons and sent them to a prison ship that was anchored in a New York harbor on a vessel called the Jersey. It was very well known as the Hell Ship because it imprisoned 11,000 American captives who would die on that vessel. The conditions were deliberately brutal. Men starved and died of disease and froze to death. Abraham Clark's sons were treated with a special level of cruelty because the British knew who their father was. One of his boys was put in solitary confinement, no food, no light, left to die in the darkness as a message to his father. And then the British came to Abraham Clark with an offer. They said, recant, come out publicly in support of the king and Parliament, denounce the Declaration of Independence, and we will send you back your boys. Just stop for a moment and think about how that would feel if you were Abraham Clark. Being presented with that proposition. He knew his sons were dying on that ship, and all he had to do was say, I was wrong. All he had to do was say that signing the Declaration of Independence was a mistake and that the crown was right and the idea of America as an independent nation was wrong. And if Abraham did that, said those words, even if he didn't mean them, they would set his sons free. Abraham said no. He said no because he understood that there are moments in life and in history when you must choose between what is easy and what is right. And the choice that you make in that moment defines not just your own life, but potentially the lives of countless generations who will follow. His sons survived the Hell Ship. And Abraham Clark lived to see the nation that he helped create take its early steps. But the courage that he showed in that moment of being presented with a truly impossible decision is the legacy and the responsibility that every one of us carries today. So at this moment, it's an opportune time for us to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be a patriot? It's not just a feeling. It's not just a wearing of a flag on our lapel. It's not just putting our hand over our heart when we sing the national anthem. Patriotism is love expressed through action. Love of our country, and a deep gratitude for our freedoms that define who we are. And now, as we celebrate this 250th birthday of our great nation, action is needed. While we are not in a position where we have to hide in caves or sleep in the woods, the struggle we face today is for the heart of our nation, for the integrity of our elections, and the preservation of our freedoms enshrined in our Constitution. We will not win that struggle by sitting back and saying, someone else got it. Someone else will fight this fight. Someone else is better, more equipped, more capable of fighting this fight. Every one of us, as proud Americans, has a role to play and a responsibility to step in the arena and fight this fight.
So,
She is so inspiring.
so inspiring.
Abraham Clark. Never even heard of him before.
I know, right?
The Hell Ship. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
If faced with that,
I mean, that is the who's the patriarch in the Bible who sacrifices his kids, Isaac, and what was it? Is it Abraham that does that?
I believe Abraham. Yeah.
The guy has the same name as Abraham. Yeah, totally. Has to
Ironically. Isn't that
But
her husband's name too?
That's her husband's name, Abraham. That's right. Yeah, cool stuff,
Very.
dude.
Wow.
But she was pointing it out that it's like it affects what you're doing is affecting countless generations to follow. In the greater scheme, it is worth it to give to the countless generations that follow. That is such a beautiful feeling.
Deeply inspiring. Wow.
Deeply inspiring. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, exactly. But also just, patriotism is love expressed as action. I mean, she's put it all on the line as an individual.
She has.
Taking it to the heights. But I do think that with seeing a person like herself do it, it does free the way for others to follow in her footsteps.
She's an inspiration to me.
Big time.
She
Me
really
too.
is.
No, she's amazing.
In Hinduism, Tulsi, isn't that sacred basil? What's
means
the
wisdom.
meaning? Yeah, there you go. She
Tulsi-
is wisdom personified.
The Tulsi plant inspires wisdom. Holy basil is its name in English, and it is a calming and centering plant. I took it for years. When we went to Peetham in the Golden Temple in Peetham in India, they had, in addition to Amma, who was the guru or the leader, the spiritual leader of that whole thing, of that whole city, that whole zip code. In addition to that, there were a few other beings that were sort of authorized to bless people. There was an elephant, and that elephant was like super enlightened elephant that could like tap you and like boom, like wow, that's really a lot of God. That's wild. That's
Right.
wild. It's like a cool, and he's like just like handing out enlightenment, and like his job was like I'm an enlightenment elephant. But then there was that plant, the holy basil Tulsi plant.
I remember that you could circumnavigate.
Walk around. And you'd just give a couple rupees to the ladies who were running the place, and then you could be with the plant, and the plant knew about God and was all about there's God for you. And it was and there was this legend there that Amma had sort of woken those animals and plants up, that literally, and the point being as a demonstration that like any point of this net can have the whole Creator expressed through it, and therefore would be a resource to all the other points in the net who were seeking that level of liberation and enlightenment and connection. But plants and animals, man, they can hold it just like anything else. But do you remember that speech? You probably heard this is a very popular speech where Eisenhower is stepping down and he's warning about the evils of the military-industrial complex and how it's going to screw up our whole society and stuff. He's kind of was right about that in a lot of ways. And we have, when Tulsi's talking about the deep state, a lot of it has to do with that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the UFO stuff is connected to all of that. So as the UFO stuff comes out and these secret compartments come out and all these creations and wonders and basically horrible horrible sins and everything else that have come out of that to keep all that secret. But she had the same gravity as Eisenhower, because Eisenhower saw that whole apparatus get set up and he's like, I'm warning you now. and she's like just newly out as of like the 30th or something, and she's like, I'm warning you, like we got to like keep going,
Yeah,
keep the fight
vigilance.
going.
That's the word
Yeah,
she uses.
yeah,
Does has she revealed more about the deep state? Because you've been researching to find talks for us to listen to. Are there
yeah.
quiet where
There's
she's whispering, "Look what I found"?
in fact, she, as the director of national intelligence, DNI, she set up a special committee when she started on day one called the Dig, and they had like 150 people or something, and they gave them tasks, and they had like 400 priorities, and some of them were ones and some of them were 499s. And I heard this whole story based on the UFO stuff, which started off as like a 498. They were like, we'll get to UFOs. But then a bunch of stuff happened and it bumped it up to like number one
Okay,
for a
okay.
while. And so they were trying to untangle those threads, but she's untangled a lot of threads. She untangled a thread that said, now this is gonna, not to get political here on our American celebration, but let's just take a moment to pour one out for everybody who thinks that Russian collusion is real. I know that's gonna like that'll spark a bunch of feathers, because there's like a bunch of people who were told for years that the Russian government was colluding with Trump in order to destabilize the United States. She got to the bottom of it, and it turns out, this is all in her revelations, that Hillary Clinton and Obama manufactured Hillary Clinton's campaign manufactured the evidence that became the Steele dossier, which was the basis of all that. Do you remember when Colbert was going crazy and we were watching Stephen Colbert,
Yes, I
and
do.
like it was
We
like
were
it was the
believing it hook, line, and sinker.
it was the first time I'd ever seen a public hysteria like that and been a part of it, and it could so easily recognize that I was a part of it,
That's
because
right.
he kept chumming the water with, oh, these revelations are coming for weeks and months, and then the Mueller report came out, and there's nothing there, and it was complete. Everyone was like, "Wait a minute, what?" And that's when we turned off.
Yeah, wait a
We were
minute,
like,
what?
"Click!" I'm like, not watching this stuff anymore. This is not true. This is literally
I
propaganda.
felt so manipulated and didn't even realize it. I mean, I try to be attentive, former journalism major.
Yeah,
God, I bought it. I bought
it's
it.
a good time to stop paying attention, because it's basically you're realizing that the information in your channel is just garbage. And so we stopped, and then we got reoriented in a bunch of different ways, media wise, but and so did everybody else, especially with the pandemic coming through. She basically released that entire thing was manufactured by the Hillary campaign,
Mm.
that Obama was basically implicated uh, in constructing intelligence that would point the finger at Donald Trump. He was essentially using the last hurrah of his presidency and his CIA to target Donald Trump, and that's what became the foundation for the coup that did not work to get rid of Donald Trump, and that would include the assassination attempts on Donald Trump, which were like the last efforts of all that stuff. There were just before, and I know this is so deep for people, but there were just congressional hearings this week about MK Ultra, and MK Ultra was the program that they thought was turned off, but it wasn't. It was turned online. So people are having their consciousnesses assaulted and fractured in such a way that they would respond to a public call for violence, and to be basically a Manchurian candidate programmed remotely by the internet, that there's no connection. They just talked about this in Congress this week. That is everybody. That is everybody on the planet getting turned potentially into a killer by a machine and an algorithm. What are we doing to humanity's soul here with all of these lies? And Obama manufactured them and promoted them and tried to, as Tulsi says, undermine the will of the people. So yeah, there's charges for these people. There's persecutions coming for these people. There's but anyway, here's the reason why I brought it up today, especially of all days. Think about the number of our fellow Americans who didn't get off the merry-go-round with the Colbert layer the time we got off on that turning of the wheel,
I
and they
have dozens
stayed
of
on.
friends. No,
They're
I have
spun.
dozens of friends that,
Right. It's
yeah,
proven now beyond.
dozens of friends.
she of many secrets that she has brought out, and just come here to my desk, here's the camera, here's the evidence, here's the release to Congress, here is the recommendations to the Attorney General to put these people in jail, and we're not prosecutors, but there is the truth. She has done that over and over and over again for issue after issue.
Okay.
And that was the major one, that if you're talking about what's inside people's heads that's like not real, do not think of the late Obama years as stable, good years for the United States. Think of them as lots of people breaking the law legitimately and now proven, and thinking of themselves as being exactly what she said in that speech, as above everyone else. That these laws don't touch me. I can do whatever I want. That's the sin. You're one of us, man.
But God, I can so relate to the dozens of friends who still love him. I mean, I remember being in Chicago in a hotel weeping with joy and relief that finally we were getting a black president who I could love and be 100% behind. I mean, I was fully on board. Fully.
White majority America elected a black president, and anyone who says America is racist should really keep that thought in mind, that when it came time for everybody to go in the curtain and vote their conscience, that guy was hope and change when he started.
I voted for him with great enthusiasm and hope.
And he was the solution to the weird 9/11 with these weird buildings that self deconstruct, and Tower 7 and every other question that comes out of that time. And there was a he was and then the war that was taking so many lives, and then let's not forget the financial crisis of 2008. It slid into the last 3 months that Bush was there. It slid into the shitter, and Obama was handed this like crap sandwich. He got an email from some big think tank marketing group, and he basically installed that cabinet, and it was like a banker-owned Citigroup kind of set of humans. So the financial ties to the Obama administration were deep and from the moment of birth, and there was all kinds of craziness related to that. But back to that other thing we were talking about with why can't Americans have the feeling of being like America's awesome? It's because of the 99%. They brought up tents and they said, we're the 99%, you're the 1%. And they went into Wall Street. And that is the moment that the PSYOP engine that was turned towards the rest of the world was the day it was turned towards Americans. It's like 2009, 10, 11, like 10, 11. And this is all post-Iraq. This is all post that. This is all this is the hope and change not being delivered from the presidential seat. So now it's going to be delivered from the streets. They took over Wall Street. They occupied Wall Street, and they were really scared. And if you go back and look at these things, they're called there's a name for them, but Google publishes what was searched for, like what percentage of terms was searched for. So they're called graphs. So you can go, and so things like racism, like basically they stirred the pot on racial tension in America in order to get people to stop worrying about class, which is the number one divider of people. People with, people without. There is that gets like very, very intense for people, and then the other one is the hold on a sec. Let me get my powers back here. There it is. So that's the 99%. There's 1% is in control, and we are the 99%, and we demand that the world work for us. Became everybody look at your neighbor and hate your neighbor. Everybody hate all the qualities about your neighbor. Identity politics. The whole severing of American consciousness gets like weaponized at this time, and the full dogs of war are released on it. And when I say war, I mean info war. So anyway, that's the number one. The number one thing that she released, I would say, is that entire Russiagate thing was literally not true. And even worse than it being not true, the people who made it were the people in power who did not want to let go of power. Their ideas had passed. Their time was time for them to go back to the farm, and they didn't want to go back to the farm. And so they did what they did, and now the world knows what they did, and now there's charges, and now they're looking at the auto pen stuff. So there's only one signature that apparently that Biden allegedly that Biden actually signed, like inked in person, and that was his son's pardon, and the rest of them were auto pen. An auto pen is supposed to be used to sign cards for the 10,000 or so letters they get at the White House every day or something like that. So they auto pen those responses, but it's a physical pen that has the mechanics of his signature in it. But all of those pardons were auto penned. So anyway, they're trying to back into apparently the auto penning, and then they can like persecute these people because these people ran off with the treasure and then like on their way out like burned the palace. Like they were like, we're all forgiven for all time, and it's like, are you? So anyway, there might be some justice coming there. If there is any justice coming there, Tulsi Gabbard will be an enormous part of it. One thing that comes up with people. So anyway, I just wanted to say that if I had one wish for America's birthday, it would be that all of the division that was caused, that we're talking about here, could somehow be mended. That the grace from these earlier times when we had smaller societies that had more vital connections that have been frayed in our modern era with all these info weapons tearing the shit out of everybody's connections. Dude, you could have, what was that, John Krasinski, Real Good News or whatever, during the pandemic?
Yeah, the Good News broadcast. I
It was
love
him.
that.
It was the sweetest little broadcast during the pandemic when everyone was locked down.
It was just him showing good news that people would send in,
Yeah.
videos and cool things. And his two daughters thought it was hysterically fun. They would dress him up like a newscaster on the top and wearing their tutus around his waist. They just thought it was great fun that their dad was doing this broadcast. No, it was endearing.
I heard that he sold that show that he and his daughters made, and what was his wife's name again?
Emily Blunt.
Right. They all were sort of chipped in and made a sheets and pillowcases version of the news and would only report on good things.
Which I
And
loved.
it picked up and it got a lot of people. They sold it for like $4 million or something. The rights
Really?
for it at the end of the pandemic. Yeah, I was like, holy shit!
I never
was like,
watched it after he was gone. No, it
right.
was just endearing. It was so nice to hear
Yeah.
something homebrew that was positive that you could cling on
It
to
was
during
it
those
was
dark, dark times.
dark times, and it was made from the heart, and it was made with construction paper and scissors and crayons,
Yeah,
and it was adorable, and
adorable.
it was a nod towards everybody should be, everybody should be creative in their own small ways, and that's a wonderful and beautiful message, of local creativity. Use what you've got. It's very cool. No, I think the $4 million and all that part, that's like the industry. That guy's just so famous that like his agents can like sell like this thing. I would be interested to see where the good news has gone to. But it reminds me of Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman said, "Vote not with a piece of paper, but vote with your whole self." I think that's what Tulsi was talking about there too. Throw your whole self in. So anyway, now that we've kind of vindicated the name of Donald Trump, which I know is like a cardinal sin from some, sorry everybody. I wanted to say that in doing all of this research, one thing that when I was doing these AI deep dives that kept coming up was one of the most patriotic things you can experience is a naturalization ceremony, which is where new Americans every year are blessed into being Americans. This is the moment. Now you're a citizen. Here's your citizenship. And they're like, America! They're like losing their minds over how awesome America is to a person. Every color of the rainbow out there, just America! They're just like, they're frothing. I watched a ton of them. They're too over the top, honestly. You can't show them. They're too crazy. But one little gem that I found in there on an account that had like 23 views or some totally small number, because it's a non-commercialized account like ours is. Like right now, like 10 people will see this, but like, if we were, whatever, those are our sweet 10 people. Hello, you guys. Hello. Dude, I found this little message from Donald Trump that when you become a citizen of the United States, they send you your citizenship and they send you this message from Donald Trump. And I was like, well, this is a side of Donald Trump you don't see very often. Here he is wishing immigrants who have gone through the trouble of becoming citizens done it all legally, waited, did the whole thing right, and now congratulations, you're an American. It's like, dude, why can't that be? We bring an insane number of people into our society every year, and there's all kinds of ways that they come in legitimately. But people, as a people, we are very happy when we get good immigration, and we get immigration from people who are clear contributors to society and have gone through and gone through all the steps necessary to do it. We appreciate that. That's very American, to want to become an American. Anyway, this is Donald Trump saying hello.
My fellow Americans, how exciting this is. Congratulations. Today you receive one of the most priceless gifts ever granted by human hands. You become a citizen of the United States of America. What an honor. It is with great pride and wisdom in so many different ways, because you have such great wisdom, that I welcome you into our national family. No matter where you come from, you now share a home and a heritage with some of the most exceptional heroes, legends, and patriots to ever walk the face of the earth. All of the triumphs and glories of American history now belong to you. You have it in your being. You have it like nobody's had it before. With this sacred honor comes the highest responsibility. As you know, the American way of life is unique in all the world, and as Americans, we must fiercely guard it and defend it. In this country, we believe in hard work and merit system and equality of opportunity. We believe in self-government and the fair and equal and impartial rule of law. And we cherish our liberty and our God-given rights to free speech, free exercise of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. This special American culture is now yours to preserve. Your freedoms are now yours to protect. Our entire nation is now yours to love and to help build. And we trust that you will do a fantastic job and make us very, very proud. Congratulations once again. God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless America.
Well, that was sweet.
It's insanely sweet. It's a very wholesome, sweet, honestly, he seems like he means it. Like
he does.
Yeah,
he
totally.
does. He does. For all the posturing, he feels sincere. That's very sweet.
And I think every American can relate to that feeling of
Heck yeah.
It really is something that gets taken from us when we can't be patriotic or can't be happy about the place we live in and the people we live with. That's taken from you, because it is a great privilege and power to be able to treat many people like kin, like their family, in a wider way. That way lies heaven on earth. That way lies societal responsibility. So yeah, civic responsibility. That was I remember the time in my life when I was picked up by the Boy Scouts, first the Cub Scouts and then the Boy Scouts, and I was such a rebel. They put me in this thing called Rat Patrol with all the other washout kids or whatever, and I was always getting into fights and stuff, and we were always Rat Patrol. They had eagle, condor, massively awesome animals, and then we're like Rat Patrol, and we're Rat Patrol. But it was like the kids that love being in Rat Patrol.
Like
so it was
lemurs
perfect.
and crickets. I can relate.
We were always blowing things up or lighting things on fire. I had a great time in Boy Scouts. It was amazing. I learned all kinds of things. One of the things that we learned in Boy Scouts was about the flag and about how to handle the flag. And I remember feeling like I was let into a secret. Like I was let into, I was like, there's this symbol around me all the time, and I don't know what it is. I don't really know how, no one sat me down and was like, here's how this actually works. So I wanted to pass that on today. I wanted to, the flag the flag is about these ideals that we're hearing about. And it's really about the stories that you tell yourself. You get to decide what stories you listen to about your country, and a love of your country. It lets you keep your heart open towards your fellow mankind in a way that is, I think, necessary to pass through life with some grace. Like, it's not worth it to have a closed off heart to all the people around you. Wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove, right? But so it's not like getting taken advantage of, but what it is being very wise, but also very generous and very, very like kind of good with other people. And I think that makes a good society. This is the flag here. This is like how to properly use a flag. And I made this little infographic to kind of talk about it. This comes from the official U.S. flag code. So there's a couple of things in here, but basically you mount it firmly on your house. You keep it left to right, so the blue part is in the upper right hand side. That's the union of the 50 stars on there. And of course, the 50 stars stand for the 50 states, and then the 13 stars and stripes stand for the original 13 colonies. And that's what that means. It means it's the transition from the colonies that were here into the federated United States and the balance of federal and state power. You know, there's a lot of states that are a lot cooler than other states because of that balance. But there's a few things here that you don't do. You don't hang the flag from side to side like this. If you can get away with it, that's a way to do it. You hoist it at sunrise and bring it down at sunset in general. If you don't want to put it in inclement weather, but if there are flags that are made so that they can be they can go out in all kinds of weather. In fact, most flags you buy from like Amazon and stuff will be like nylon flags. If you have a flag that you don't want to, or you would like to do it in a different way than raising it at sunset and taking it down at raising it at sunrise and taking it down at sunset, then you need to get a light of some kind so it's properly illuminated. So basically the sun never sets on the flag is kind of the idea. And you can get little kits like we have at our house that have, we have little kits that are, whatchamacallit, they've got like a little solar panel inside of there and a little LED. So during the day, it soaks down the sunlight and then it turns it into light that comes out like on the other side. There's a couple more things on here about dignified disposal. So you never let the flag touch the ground or the floor or water. And theoretically, it's never used as apparel, as bedding, or as drapery. There's a dignified disposal of it. And again, I think the reason why, if anyone was like, why would you, put so much value in like an object or in like a symbol? If you thought of it in any way that was useful, think of it as you are respecting the people who, like those first nomadic or, tribal people that went underground to try to have their friends who died in battle go off to the next life. You're taking it easy on them. If you had to talk yourself through why am I doing it, it's like you're basically just pouring one out for the guys who went too fast for something bigger than themselves. You somehow you benefited from the structure of society that you got from. It's not just guys, it's gals too. And the best society is a balance of male and female energy working together. Is like the best way to. That's the truth of what it is. There is no war of the sexes, really. That's a kind of an invention. Mostly the sexes cooperate. Wouldn't you say, love?
Yes, I would definitely say that's true. At least in my experience, you have to. When you work together, you have to find a way to treat each other in a more androgynous kind of way. Sex
Sure, like
should be secondary, tertiary, barely registers.
Yeah. I think in our partnership, we're celebrating 27 years this summer. We're going into 27 years of being together. We've got to see how powerful it is when we work together cooperatively towards goals. We get like all kinds of crazy stuff done in the world. We do all kinds of cool things. We go all kinds of places spiritually, emotionally, mentally. But anyway, so let's tie this back into America here. We are afforded so much opportunity by being in America to have these freedoms, to do this exploration, to build all this cool stuff that we build, to make all this cool art, do all this cool stuff that we do. We dig it here. Kind of following up here in the Trump pattern, there was a signing that Trump did that was to give breakthrough medical status therapies. So the FDA has certain therapies that come through. When they show promise early on, they're given breakthrough medical status. And what he did is he signed an executive order that expands what that means in terms of how quickly more people can have access to those therapies in general. And so there's a whole bunch of different therapies that qualify for this. MDMA-assisted psychotherapy was in there years ago. I think it's still in there. Certain types of LSD therapy are in there. There might be psilocybin in there. I can't quite remember. But the big one is ibogaine. And ibogaine is a plant from Ghana. It's a bush. It creates a very intense, sometimes as long as like 24 plus hour experience that people describe as being in front of their conscience. So whatever you call God, the divinity, old word for it is conscience. Like the sense of right and wrong. Where does that come from in us? It comes from this kind of divine pattern in us that expresses through us. And so apparently when people do ibogaine, they tend to do it a very small number of times, because to be in this wilting sunlight of conscience for so long, A, you are 100% sure God's real, but B, you also get transformed. And when they look at the qualities of the ibogaine plant under a microscope, there's basically all of human plants in life are sort of like level 1, level 2 kind of complexity of molecules. This one is randomly like a level 4. It skips something we don't know about and is in some other category, and it's got this insane structure. But what it can do in a single session is take a lifelong opiate or heroin addiction, where there's a very high suicide rate for this group of people. These people are very hopeless. A lot of sad music and the blues and stuff can come out of some heroin. This sense of being trapped in this daily ritual of life for you that you know is not good for you, but it's the whole thing of addiction. In a single session, ibogaine can wipe that out.
Wow.
It changes the neurology of the brain to such a degree that people who've done heroin every day for forever just are like, no, and stop on a dime with no side effects and have good things to say about their life and about they know some stuff about how they got there and why they got there. So anyway, it might be like a pretty wild technology that's here on our planet. It's certainly a spiritual blessing for people because it cures so much of this. Now, ibogaine has been decriminalized in Colorado for a few years. And so there are likely centers that are probably, I would imagine, quietly popping up in Colorado where people maybe don't advertise about it. But especially for vets who have very bad PTSD, the MDMA-assisted psychotherapy that the MAPS conference and that they were getting through, that stuff showed that in 1 or 2 sessions you can get a reduction in PTSD to normal levels. Like you're no different than anyone else.
That's so needed. What did Joe Rogan talk to Trump about? Was this?
Well, this is what we're getting ready to watch. What we're getting ready to watch is I cut right to the part where Trump hands over the mic to Joe Rogan, and then Joe Rogan hands over the mic to this guy who he's had on his podcast a few times. And he's the guy who brought the ibogaine to his attention. And he tells this I won't wreck the story, but he tells this very funny story about how it all came about. And I think it's very American in the sense, anyway, it's a quite beautiful little segment here.
I'm glad you're going to show it.
Here we go.
Marcus?
Yes, sir. To start off, Mr. President, thank you so much for having us in here and doing this. You're going to save a lot of lives with it. I'd like to say how grateful I am to have had the opportunity to go through the program and receive the ibogaine. It absolutely changed my life for the better. I went through a lot of the programs that the veterans are going through, and I always kind of felt like I was a victim coming out of the program. When I came out of this, I felt like I had gotten my life back. That was 5 years ago. I literally lived the best days of my life every single day. I'm so thankful for everybody who's in this room to help out with this. I know this is kind of a new frontier for us. And just the fact that we're taking this kind of slow as smooth as fast, and we're getting it in there so we can test this out so that we don't get ahead of ourselves. I think that's very impactful. I think there's a lot of people out there that need help, not only our veterans, but our civilian population that can benefit from this. And it's going to do great things for our country to get it back on track and open up a lot of doorways and pathways for us to be successful in the future. Thank you for your time.
That's fantastic. So you've done this 5 years?
Yes, sir.
And it's just been a whole different thing.
Every single day is a better day for me.
Wow, that's amazing, really.
I can vouch for that.
Come here, look, this guy's got guts. Come here, these guys. 2 good guys. I didn't realize you You were involved in it already. It's the best
Yes, sir.
testament you can have. There's nothing better than that. A man who's really respected by everybody, and he's a fantastic person, Joe Rogan, to say a few words, please, Joe.
Well, I want to say that I'm here because of the man to my left. Brian Hubbard and former Texas Governor Rick Perry came on my podcast. They told me how impactful this medicine is, and having that conversation with them, millions of people got a chance to hear their story, hear the stories of all the different people that have had life-changing experiences from it. And I want Brian to be able to speak about this.
Good. Brian, please.
Thank you, sir.
I heard that, Joe. You have no trouble speaking. He's got no trouble speaking.
I want to assure you that my presence here is the most concrete affirmation that God has a wonderful sense of humor. Thank you. Thank you. Federal prohibition of psychedelic medicine in America is over. On the 250th year, on the 250th year of our nation's founding, everyone who has fought for this day through decades of monumental struggle, sacrifice, and suffering can now declare a seminal victory for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, rights we bear as images of our eternal Creator, whose essence is almighty, eternal, unconditional love for each and every one of us. This is the end of the beginning. We have moved mountains, yet there are mountains to move. Government systems which have relentlessly suppressed psychedelics are the same systems which will now manage their emergence. We dare not let our guard down for 1 second and be hair trigger ready to impose accountability for incompetence, obstruction, or failure. Credit belongs where credit is due. With this executive order, President Trump has delivered an epic victory for all humanity. I thank him for having the courage to make this happen, and my mission brother, Joe Rogan, for having the spine to make the ask. To our brothers and sisters in Gabon, you have our deepest gratitude for your stewardship of the sacred tree grown for the healing of nations. I will do my best to deliver the respect and honor you deserve for helping heal this nation. It is my joy to deliver these good tidings unto the meek, which will hopefully bind up the brokenhearted, proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to all who are bound. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you.
I want to tell everybody how this happened. I sent President Trump some information. We have a gigantic opiate problem in this country, obviously. In 2024, more than 80,000 people died of overdoses. It's a horrible number. And there's more than 5 million people that are addicted to opiates right now in this country. With 1 dose of Ibogaine, more than 80% of people are free of that addiction. With 2 doses, it's more than 90%. I sent him that information. The text message came back, sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it. It was literally that quick. These drugs are illegal not because they're harmful. They're illegal because of the 1970 Controlled Substances Act that was passed by the Richard Nixon administration. They did it to target the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement. It's not because these drugs harm people. And for 56 years, we've lived under those terrible conditions. We're free of that now. We're free of that now. Thanks to all these people that we see next to me, and thanks to President Trump.
I want to thank you. We all respect Joe, and He's a little bit more liberal than that's okay. I have a lot of friends that are liberal.
That's so funny. Joe Rogan gets accused all the time of being all right, but I mean on most issues he's pretty far left, and he's really far left on psychedelics and access to them, and it's really cool to see just 250th birthday. Here we go. That is probably the number. We kind of discovered magic mushrooms. Gordon Watson brought them back from Maria Sabina in the 50s, and they wrote it up in Time magazine. There was weird LSD in the Nazi regime. It came back in through the CIA. It was used to create the 60s and the counterculture movement and music, and it was a big part of MK Ultra for a long time, which they're even just really getting even deeper into recently. There was psilocybin and doors of perception with Aldous Huxley, or not psilocybin, but mescaline with doors of perception, Aldous Huxley. He took mescaline, and his wife and his assistant scribed down all the stuff. It was like one of the first trip reports, and that's this book, The Doors to Perception. And we read it in that psychedelic book club that we were in for a little bit there, and it was kind of interesting because that was kind of the grandfather one. But then there's this guy named not Huxley, Osley. He was in the CIA, and he was the LSD guy. And you see him going to all the places where LSD emerges into the echelons of the 60s and into all these different areas. It's him spreading it like Johnny Appleseed of LSD, basically. And he's a CIA guy. And so there's this, we sort of got into drugs in this wild way. And then they made it illegal with Nixon to try to, to defeat political opponents. But it wasn't because the drugs were dangerous. It was because they were used by this counterculture, subculture who was using them. So this is like the first time that we've really corrected in this like major way back the other way, from like a federal system standpoint. And of course, moving towards legalization. There later on in this one, he says, "Dude," he goes, "Joe, they're slow rolling me on reclassification of weed. Can we get on this? Can we make this happen?" He's looking around the room like, "You guys going to do this? That's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to change the classification on this." And so there's a lot of movement in that area. Well, this is the last video that I had for today, and this one is kind of a neat and fun development here in the 250th anniversary. But any thoughts about the Ibogaine stuff?
It's like an answer to prayer.
Yeah.
Having people give their lives to go defend countries, our country, and then to come back completely out of it, messed up. They can't reintegrate back in. They carry that burden, that trauma, that horror with them the rest of their lives. Just isn't fair. So to have something like this that could allow PTSD to dramatically subside and allow them to remember who they are at their core and to be able to take up residency again is only right. It's only right.
You would just, it's so cool that we live in a universe where these solutions are even possible, where that karma and that sort of weight of the violence and all that can be alleviated. Why would the federal government ever get in the way of that? Why wouldn't they be the number one? They're the ones asking people to go make these sacrifices. They should be the number one people out there saying they have access to all of this, and
Absolutely.
in a way that makes it actually work. I heard this articulated best at the MAPS conference 23 and then 25, and they're going to have one in 27 again. And that you could get to a net trauma zero world. That if you sort of looked at MDMA assisted psychotherapy as a way to take trauma from whatever level it was at to less, you could quantify the amount of trauma there was in the world, and then you could systematically apply this therapy to the people, because it'll be in people that this trauma lives, that they would be healed. And as you did this work, you could get to a net zero trauma where you weren't
Nice.
adding anything into it. So
Yeah.
all of the chaos and the confusion and the all of the wildness that comes out of trauma, out of the whatever it is, misplaced energy in time and space, whatever that is, the it something very long ago can't be let go of because it hasn't been treated right. And so it's still imposing on now, which makes now kind of suck because you would like to go like this, but it can't because it's got to go over here and deal with this other stuff. What kind of human potential could you unlock? And it starts with the vets, right? But then it's like everybody. It's like there's just a whole lot of space here for some real good exploration as a people, Americans call it, to get into it. And also we're a big part of the war on drugs getting exported to the rest of the world. Like in Jakarta, if you are caught with anything, it's death penalty. And they do that because they want good tax incentives and stuff from us. So they're like, we're gung ho on drug, and we're like, whoa. Like, also, anywhere you have illegal drugs, you have a black market. And so you're basically saying this commerce that humans engage in isn't worthy of being safe and knowledge accessible in regards to it. And the side effects are going to be because you're so bad, not because you definitely got involved. There's a white market for these drugs would literally evaporate the crime aspects of it, which there's a lot of reasons why you might want to do something like that. But just that for me is more than enough. It's like, dude, do you know how radical it would be if you looked at all of the illegal stuff that's happening in society and somehow pulled it into taxation and just made it boring? And just something in the corner, you'd probably reduce use. And if you could make it reduce use as your metric, do it. White market it, reduce use it down to like the smallest pixel on the screen, and just like call it a day. It's like it's not giving in to drugs, but it's the correct understanding of what consciousness is, what each one of these things does, and then like look at the fruit on the tree. Look at the context. There's something like the World Health Organization said that 80% of drug use is non-problematic. I heard that on a Carl Hart interview on Joe Rogan.
Interesting.
He was a big proponent for heroin being legal and stuff. And it's kind of like, well, that's a little intense, but okay. And that was his stat, was that 80% of people who do a drug every day have no problem interacting with society. That is a far cry from a war. That's 20% of people that would probably have trouble with anything they ran into. If it was hamburgers or scratch tickets or anything else, there's like there's going to be some trouble you have to work out. So maybe just get to the root cause of this stuff. But anyway, let's end on we're going to end on a positive note here. Here's a little speech.
First of all, thank you guys,
Mark Rubio,
for coming. I know half of you were just here for the air conditioning, but it's crazy out there. You did a great job, Morris. You and your whole team, and I want to thank you guys for putting this together. And not just the passport, but the changes we're making. We'll talk about it in just a moment. But first of all, it's exciting to be a part of something that's going to be commemorative, that's going to be remembered for a long time, to honor the 250th anniversary of the founding of the single greatest nation in all of human history. And the passport is not just a travel document. It's incredibly valuable in the sense of what it means. It's a tremendous source of pride for many of us when we travel abroad to be able to present that American passport. It also is a lifeline for a lot of people. In fact, if you know, and as you know from those that work here and perhaps from personal experience, probably one of the most frightening things that can happen to you if you're abroad is you lose your passport. Because it limits not just your ability to travel, but your ability to come back home to the greatest nation on earth. And we thought the passport needed to reflect that in general. And there'll be more designs, and the folks over at the design studio here that work not for the State Department, for the whole of government, are doing a phenomenal job, but I wanted to walk you through some of the thinking behind it. Obviously, this is a commemorative one. It's one that'll be long remembered. We're happy because a lot of people are applying to get it and want it. And so for us, it's an opportunity to reinvigorate, our passport office and their efforts in terms of their funding and so forth. But beyond it, we think it's something people will cherish and hold on to for a very long time because of what it signifies. Like all passports, it will expire one day. But the meaning of it, you'll always remember. We think it's one that people will keep for a long time. If I could walk you through a little bit, in the past, when people would get something as valuable as a passport, They basically, you apply, you go to CVS, they take a headshot, and then, you put all the papers in the mail, and at some point in the next 2 or 3 months, you'll get a package from the U.S. Postal Service in an envelope that could be anything. It could be a demand letter or it could be a passport. You have no idea what it is. And you open it up, and hopefully it hasn't been rained on or run over by a truck, and there's your passport. And we thought for something as important, as dignified as the American passport, it really should have something more than that. And so everyone from now on, it's not just for the 250, but our goal moving forward is to make sure that everyone who applies for a passport and receives it in the mail will receive it in this box, which, I know, fancy box, which I think is indicative of how important the document inside is. But wait, there's more. When you open it, and when you open this passport box, you will find that there's a certificate attached to it, which is like a certificate of authenticity, like we do with, watches and stuff like that, and jewelry. But again, it's something that we think a lot of people will tremendously value. And then, of course, there's the actual passport. If you'll notice, I'm not good at any of the aesthetic things, as I want you to know, but I value what this means. You see the redesign that I think more appropriately reflects our country and its stature. Whose passport is this? Because I'm about to open it. Is this yours, Bulos? Ooh, there's red marks all over this already. It's not good. Well, let me skip that part for a moment. There's some features in here that a lot of people haven't picked up on yet, but you'll notice as you work through it. We have these, well, I don't know if you guys are going to care about it or not, but when you flip the pages, I can't flip the pages. When you flip the pages, this image here will start to move, so you'll see it's like a moving image along the way. But here's the coolest part. I know, isn't that amazing? Who invented that? But the one thing that's not a feature on this yet will be a feature in the future. Again, I'm giving away a lot of great secrets, but there'll actually be like a QR code attached to it. So each one of these images that are on here, and they'll be different for the permanent passports, will have a QR code. And when you go on that QR code, it will prompt you to like a video presentation of that moment in American history. And so what we're thinking is that because flights are so often delayed, people are going to be bored out of their minds, and they can go on the QR code and it will pull up these key moments in American history, which obviously will continue to be replenished and added, and it'll go through some pretty amazing moments, including the recent Artemis launch is one of them that we're considering putting in there, and others. So we think it'll be a great source of pride. So I'm excited because we're launching this commemorative, but we're also putting in place all the things you need to have an incredible passport program. Now, beyond that, I would say that we are also looking at some technological changes, which we'll be more fully able to announce over the coming months, where it's going to be a lot easier to get a passport in terms of the dynamics of it. You'll actually be able to go online. You'll be able to do almost all of it entirely online. One of the questions we had was most of the devices that people are using, be it a laptop or a standing computer or what have you, where you would fill out this application, they have cameras on them. I know it's shocking, but they have cameras, they have videos that people use. You should be able to take that picture on that device as opposed to going somewhere. Now, the CVS people, of course, hate this, and the Walgreens and all those other places, but you'll be able to take your picture from that device and be able to have it in real time through our security system, verify the facial ID, and it just saves you a lot of, you don't have to go down somewhere now and get a headshot and have the little pictures that you have to cut and then submit it, 3 passport pictures. You'll be able to do that. You'll be able to do it online entirely for the most part with all the right numbers. They'll be able to verify it for you, and you should be able to get it much sooner. So we're going to make it a much more customer friendly. We're not ready to do that yet, but that's really what we want to be able to do. And it should cut down on the long waits, the long lines, the appointments, the making. Some people may still decide to do it that way, but this way will be available to people, and we look forward to like really rolling that out in a few months when it's ready. But we didn't want to delay this commemorative edition. Now, does everyone in this room going to get one, or almost everyone? Because I have like 10 extra here. If you'd like, I mean, your name may be different, but we're excited. You are, I would guess, right, among the first people in the country. You are the first. We are the first. I gave the president his this morning, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it, and the people who designed this did a great job. And so we're like, sir, we need your passport back, to hold it in a safe place. Like my passport, I don't keep my own passport. They hold on because you don't lose it. He goes, well, can I hold on to this for a couple days because I want to show it to everybody that comes in the office. So it just tells you how proud he is of the work all of you did and how happy he is with it. So I am going to sell Ambassador Boulos's for $50. We'll start at a $50 bid, huh? And 75. 75. 150. Anyone else want to be Mossad Boulos? We sell identities here. Yeah, exactly. So this is great. This is exciting, and you guys are among the. Do I even have one of these yet? This is. What kind of operation is this that we're running around here? Well, I need to get one. I'm sure I'll apply. I'll probably. Do I have to go to CVS and do all that? No. Okay. Oh, I just have to sign it. Okay. Is my signature on this thing? No. No. Okay, I would say. Hold on. Let me check something. Just looking at Boulos's picture just to make sure that it's actually him. Yes, it's him. Okay, good. It is you. Anyway, this is exciting. You guys are the first in the country to have it. I know there's a lot of demand for it. Everybody's asking for one, and it's great. And it's a great one to hold, and they'll be good for a while. So anyway, thank you all for being a part of this today and celebrating this with us. Great job, all of our team here. And congratulations on your new passports. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
That was Marco Rubio. He's the Secretary of State. He is the #1 ambassador to the rest of the world. So
he's darling. I really liked him.
No, he's also been really at the forefront of a lot of the disclosure stuff. He's been talking a lot about that.
Neat.
Yeah, very good stuff. He was on the movie we watched, The Age of Disclosure, which was kind of like the official, unofficial, like disclosure day kind of stuff from the government. That's what they all said it was. They are in very good positions to say that. He said that. He said, "This is your government disclosing to you what is going on in the ways that we can, more or less, and that we want a lot more to come out."
Yeah,
but this is our official channel. I don't think I'm putting words in his mouth when I'm saying that. So anyway, the only thing left here is a nice fireworks celebration.
Oh, I was hoping for fireworks.
Exactly. For fireworks, what we're gonna do is we've got this really nice way of doing it, where we can go like this, and then in addition to making cool designs, this thing has a fireworks mode. I've got a couple of different fireworks I can choose from here. This is when I recorded myself.
Really?
Yeah, this is me at the camera on this one.
Where were you?
I was at a party on New Year's Eve, and this is me being outside, and I couldn't convince these people who were in the party to come watch this. It was me and this guy named Jason, who spoke very little English, and he assured me these were all illegal. And he asked me if I wanted to help him, and I was like, "Are you joking? I would love to help you." So we pulled these out of his truck, and then we pulled these out of the truck, and then we
Happy New Year!
set them on fire.
God bless.
There is. Let me see if I've got some other ones here. I got some other cool ones. This is a fun one.
That's amazing.
That's a lot of bang. Let's go, America.
Woohoo!
1000%. Here's another one from Jason.
That went really high.
Not as high as not as high as you'd hope. And there's people just setting off stuff like in parks. They're just like, I'm in this park and I'm gonna do this.
You sure
Go
can't
America.
do that right now with our drought. You can't have any fireworks in Colorado.
No fireworks in Colorado, but let's watch that one again. There we go. Look at that. It's just a big old
That's
4
big.
inches of dynamite. It's gonna go off in this tube. He sets off all the car alarms. Check this out. murderous neighbor. Go America! He grabs the tube and he runs. There's like the sound of like there's this subgenre of channels which are like urban, like in the city fireworks channels. There's no way this stuff is sanctioned. They just find some empty plot and like light up a bunch of craziness. So they're maximally incentivized to make the biggest bang they can as quick as they can and get out of there. Here's another one from Jason. He was just lighting this all with a blowtorch. So machismo, dude. There's a bunch of them in here. And then there's this one, which is the we've seen that one. This is a nice one. It's got a whole long trail. I've seen some really good ones where you fly drones through these, and it's all three-dimensional. Stuff, but here is a little chart that shows you what elements turn into what colors. So strontium turns into this red color. Calcium inside of the explosive turns into orange. Sodium is a yellow. Barium is a green. Copper turns into these blues. And so when you burn this, it burns at different optical temperatures. That is where the different colors come from.
Motherfucker. Let's go, let's go.
Hey, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your 4th of July. We're going to hang out here for a couple more minutes. Might play just some music on the way out here. Love, you got any final words of wisdom or anything for us?
No, just feeling gratitude for you taking hours and hours to create this. Thank you.
Well, you have sacrificed greatly here as an individual. You have not seen me. I've been down in the lab working on stuff.
You have
but
been.
But thank you for all that. That was a great sacrifice. But I think Benedict's had a nice 4th of July.
No, I love it.
I think we really celebrated with the whole nation here. Everybody in the whole universe can access this broadcast. And so far, I didn't want to knock on wood too much, but we have received no copyright strikes from all of our rebroadcast of this material. I think it was all adequately in the public domain. So that was a big part of the.
Did you get your need for fireworks fulfilled?
That was, honestly, that plus the hours of fireworks I watched in the last 2 days was exactly what I was looking for.
All right, good.
One year, I did a VR simulator fireworks thing where I was in VR and I was lighting whole sheds on fire at once. I was like, it was actually, I think I really got something out of my soul with that one. But one of those fireworks we were watching was from the big yearly one that'll happen tonight, and it's the and there'll be people all over the place that post, and there'll be people that fly their drones through it, and it's out in the middle of the desert. It is on Piru land. I forget the name of the Indian tribe, but they have a giant, huge amount of concrete out in the middle of the desert, and people can come and buy fireworks that you need a license to buy normally, and they will just let you go out there en masse with no safety concerns. No OSHA to speak of because it's not U.S. land, and you can blow the heck out of some stuff, and it looks like wildness every year. That is still on the bucket list, but there's no need to rush into that. That could be done years from now with great ease. So, my lover, it has been wonderful to hang out with you on this 250th anniversary, and blessings to everybody out there that are doing cool things out in these streets, and do we have any other good wishes to send to the people here on their birthday?
Gosh, just live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. It's great advice. It's great advice. We're going to go out with a little music, and we're going to go out with, I am going to get that poetry working.
The haiku? Good.
The haiku. We got some 420 haiku here, and we're definitely going to do it. We're just going to have to do it nowish. Okay, so we're going to play music for a bit, and maybe you'll see some more fireworks underneath it all. Let's just figure it out, and let's do it. All right. Love you, babe.
Love you, too.
So, to avenge myself,
this is my first time hearing of this Bohemian Grove.
And by the way, these are all government ID verified SOC 2 compliant witches.
Wild and free, from sea to shining sea, prosperity's key, 93751. Haiku 12, icons carved in stone, voices raised in heartfelt tone, never stand alone, 05820. Haiku 13, vast prairies stretch, brave hearts beat as one, mountains tall and oceans grand, freedom ever shines, 31415, eagles soar so high, dreamers chase the endless sky, hope in every eye, 92653, stars and stripes unite, Innovation sparks the night. Power takes its flight. 58979. Rivers flow with might. Cities pulse with vibrant light. Justice pure and right. 32384. Heroes stand so tall. History echoes the call. Pride for one and all. 62643. Spirit wild and free. From sea to shining sea, prosperity's key. 93751. Icons carved in stone. Voices raised in heartfelt tone. Never stand alone. 05820. Vast prairies stretch wide. Courage is our constant guide. With us side by side. 97494. Dream big, reach the stars. Hearts connected near and far. America ours. 45923. Lights of cities gleam, chasing the American dream in a constant stream. 07816.